Historic Preservation Commission, March 20th, 2023. It is 6:03. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. Pledge of allegiance, please.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Copeland,
Here.
Ms. Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Cogswell,
Here.
Ms. Pisagno,
Here.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick,
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Becker.
Here.
Thank you.
You've had a chance to review the minutes, February 6, 2023. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So move.
Second. Second.
Motion by Mr. Cogswell, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell,
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolutions, Yacht Harbor Marine LLC, 1505 Yacht Avenue, Block 1160, lots 6 and 6.01 and 7. Resolution 2023-07, O'Donnell and Weimer, 1624 New Jersey Avenue, Block 1185, Lot 10.02, Resolution 2023-08. And Fernando, 729 Washington Street, Block 1079, Lots 6 and 10, Resolution 2023-09. Do I have a motion to accept those resolutions?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Pisagno, seconded by Ms. Wilson-Stridick. Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell,
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Applications approved or denied in review. You've had a chance to review those also. Do I have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell,
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson-Stridick,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, with the recusal on Walters, 223 North Street.
Thank you. Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Old business, open, KG the Third LLC, 1215 Lafayette Street, Block 1061, Lot 87. This is a contributing property to relocate the deck stairs. Yes, please. No, just go right here and push the button so that it turns green so we can hear you.
Okay.
You want to move one over, two. There you go.
Makes sense. Okay.
Thank you. Take it
Well,
away.
What we're asking for is, there's a stairway on the rear of the building right now. It's built out of, it's got composite treads and vinyl railings on it. And we're taking that stairway and we're turning it 90 degrees. Instead of landing on the deck downstairs, we're going to land on the ground.
I'm sorry, sir. Did you introduce yourselves?
What's that?
Introduce yourselves.
I'm Alan Molina. This is Kyle Gagg.
Kyle Gagliardi.
That's all right.
We have a really long agenda. If you would just excuse me for a second, I should have mentioned it. We have a really long agenda tonight, and we are not permitted to accept new business after 10 o'clock. And so if there's someone later on the schedule, the fears that they might not be heard tonight, but are not urgent and would like to meet next month, let Judy know, and we will put you on first of the agenda for next month. Anytime during the evening, you can do that. As I said, we're going to try to get through this, but it's a large agenda, so I'm sorry, but.
Okay. The stairway that it's behind the house. I mean, it's not even visible from Lafayette Street whatsoever. And we just wanted to rebuild it with the same, because the deck upstairs has vinyl rails.
Okay. Normally, we would go around the room, but this seems pretty straightforward, so what I would like to do is open this up if anyone on the commission has any questions about this application.
I know when you came before the review committee.
Right.
You talked about the fact that your client has just bought the house.
Right, yes.
And we asked you to consider, see if he wanted to go back and consider, start to restore the house to what it was before, because it's got a lot of stuff that we don't approve.
Right, it's got vinyl, it's got aluminum siding on it, it's all Anderson windows in the house.
And we thought maybe, if he wanted to, this would be a good place to start.
Right.
Oh,
There's the owner.
as far as doing wood for the back steps?
Yes. Instead of doing the vinyl rails and,
Well, you're the one doing the work. What would you prefer?
it doesn't matter to me, but if we did go to wood rails, would we be permitted to use the composite on the treads?
That'd probably be the preference, definitely, making sure
mean-
that the treads
Well,
are gonna
it's a
last.
contributing house, and contributing houses should be wood
All right, well,
on the railings and on the decking. I understand the request, but we've been very consistent with contributing houses in the historic district. And so I think it's appropriate for it to be wood and the railings to be wood. Other comments? Anyone?
Now, that's one of the reasons we talked about it, that the,
right.
that's with my thought, Getting, start restoring it, because it is a contributing house. It should have wood siding and, wooden windows and that sort of thing, so.
But I don't see any strong objections, so would you consider doing that then?
I'm definitely not opposed to it. I just know that the maintenance associated with doing wood is definitely higher than the composite, and, I'd like the opportunity to know that the work that we are doing is going to be sustainable, and I'm nervous. I know that the neighboring house has some composite work to it. I'm definitely not opposed to restoring, the house in a timely fashion.
We're not going to ask you to do it all at one time.
Right,
but, yeah.
absolutely. But the front of the house does have a wood deck, and, we have no intention of ever changing that, but just being that this is mainly a form of egress and it is in the back, I really would appreciate the opportunity to utilize the materials that are already there, given the fact that it would last a lot longer, and it would be safer for the people that are traveling in the house, inside and outside the house. It is used as a rental. I'm not there. If I was personally there, I would say, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just nervous that I'm not going to be there all the time to constantly maintain or know that something is, going to be lasting, for a long time.
Well, the wood materials that you'll be using on the deck are sustainable. And as a side benefit, it doesn't get as hot as a vinyl plastic does. So, no, we would encourage wood. It is a contributing house, and
Yeah, no issues.
we're in a national landmark, so
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
welcome to Cape May.
Yeah. I have no issue using wood.
I will make a motion to accept the application with the caveat that the stair be all wood. I've done wood. Usually if I'm doing wood steps, I'll do mahogany. That takes a oil once a year keeps it looking good.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Cogswell, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes,
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next order of business, 1121 New York Avenue LLC, 1121, Block 1117, lots 25, 26, 27. It's a contributing property. It's a rear addition, window siding, and repair the front steps. Name and relationship to the property and all that.
My name is Catherine Lorenz. I'm co-architect.
My name is Will Harrislack. I'm the other co-architect.
I'm not going to go through every single page, but I thought we could talk about the submission. And the first thing that I want to mention is that we were here back in July. And in July, we had ambitious plans of not only enlarging the rear of the house, putting in a new kitchen and a sunroom, but also to enlarge the primary bedroom and put in another bathroom. Since that time, we've met with builders, and the pricing has gone through the roof. And so the owners asked us to reduce the cost of the budget. And the only way to reduce the cost is to reduce the space that we're going to build. So we're not doing any work on the second floor. We're going to leave the second floor the way it is. The house is on New York Avenue. It's one of the typical 4 square houses. But we are still going to enlarge the kitchen and build the family room, which is like a sunroom. So with that said, everything else is going to stay the same. We're going to put in, the existing windows are vinyl clad. We're going to put in new wood windows that will be wood primed for painting. We're going to put in a new wood rear porch, and we even have a detail that I would like to give to the board. We have just a couple of copies, but I know to show the railing detail that was specified at the last meeting. We are going to put new siding, new soffits, all wood. We're going to have the same type of siding that's on there now. It'll be a natural cedar, white cedar. We're going to replace the roof, and presently, and to our knowledge, it is an asphaltic roof. So we're going to put the same type of roofing on. There was a lot of discussion last time about the location of the HVAC units and where we need to put them. Well, I think I'll give this to Judy at the end.
Here,
Oh, great.
no. I have the file here.
Do I have an extra copy?
Oh, that's all right.
So, since we have reduced the scope of the work, the existing air conditioning condenser units are going to remain where they are presently located. And if we were to look at page 13 in the booklet, I'm going to ask you to look at 2 pages so that hopefully I can get agreement on this. So there are 2 condenser units currently located on the left side of the house, behind a fence, behind a holly bush. So if you look at the picture on 13, and if you look at the pictures on page 21, now, they may be a little bit underexposed, but I don't think anyone can see those HVAC units where they are currently located and where they intend to remain. Then we could go into the plans that were submitted. The first floor plan is the exact same floor plan as we had submitted back in July. We've pushed the house back towards the backyard. We have created a sunroom on the left-hand side, enlarged the kitchen. We have located the new condenser unit in the rear, in between the staircase that takes you out to the backyard. This would be on P1. The sketch that I handed around was another objection, that we needed to detail the railing, and I think that that sketch shows the detail of the railing that we intend to use around the house. So if we were to look at P2, that indicates the front of the house. We show no changes to the front. You will see a little bit of the sunroom off to the left and some stairs coming off to the right. We are proposing on the front porch a metal roof. This is new, but we thought it might add a little bit of character to the front of the house. The side elevation shows how the addition comes to the rear of the yard, and we have put a metal roof on the one-story rear addition. P3 shows the rear of the house with the sunroom being on the right. There'll be wood windows. They will match in style to the existing windows of the house. Wood beadboard underneath, wood lattice, brick piers, a shower off to the side. And the condenser unit is hidden by the stairs going up to the back of the house. So even in the backyard, you don't see the condenser unit. And then we have the site plan, which also shows the existing conditions. I think this is pretty straightforward. The booklet shows the materials we're all going to use, which is the same materials that's on the house, with the exception of the metal roof. Are there any questions?
This SP1, you're showing 3 cars parked really in the front. Was that discussed at the prior meeting?
Could you, SP1, we show 3 cars that are pulled in sort of diagonally, and that's the way they park right now. It's a grassy lawn, and they pull in that way.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right. I mean, it's parking in the front.
That's the existing condition currently.
But I have a question. Is the parking like that required by the fact that you're reorientating the steps in the back? Is that would prohibit the cars from parking further back?
No, I'm.
That if you would have the steps going towards the rear, could cars pull further up?
I documented where they park now.
This is what,
And our stair I designed to make, they didn't have to.
And what they're doing right now, aside, does the lot allow for the cars to pull back further if that stairway was oriented differently?
well, they have a shared garage. Could they park back towards the garage?
Yeah, like just get the car, at least that one car that's on the lawn in front.
Really, parking in the front yard is not appropriate in the historic district. It's not appropriate, period. And so I think it's a problem. And reorienting the steps gives you plenty of room between the steps and your property line to continue into the backyard with the cars and get them out of the front yard.
Could I just confer here for a second?
Sure.
Because I know, are you suggesting that we then show the parking in front of the garage, right on the lot line to the right, one in front of the other?
Yes.
Okay. Currently, none of that area is paved or gravel. It's all grass, even where they park. Since it's only a summer house, the grass is like in perfect condition. On the few weekends that the whole family is there, if we were to have parking, I just don't know the rules. If we were to have parking on the back, would we have to pave back there?
I don't think you would have to pave, but what most people would use are the blocks that allow grass to grow, between the design feature. You don't necessarily have to go all the way back to the garage, although that would be preferred. But the issue is a reasonable expectation to get the cars past the house.
So car number 1 needs to go back a little further, but 2 and 3 are acceptable because they're not past the house. Correct?
Well, I would push it back a little bit further, but
We also have an easement. There's a drive aisle between both units there that I've defined. It's 5 feet from the property line. So we wouldn't be able to park on the property line. and
you don't
have
have to park on the
fence right
property
now.
line if you reorient the stair. If you turn that stair and the stair landing towards the back of the lot, then you could drive right past that stair.
So we just take car number 1 and put it further back so that we're not in the front yard.
At least.
Okay.
Any other comments on that?
Yeah, I just had a question. Where the cars are parking now and where they have been parking, it doesn't indicate what kind of surface that is?
It's grass.
Grass.
So it would be no different in the rear.
So we're allowed to park on the grass then? Is acceptable?
The problem is the front yard.
No, correct, I understand that, but
So I'm not aware of some regulation that stops us parking on the grass in the back.
Okay.
The issue, we talk about parking on the front lawn, we talk about it as grass, but the real issue is to get it away from the front of the house. With a historic community, there were no cars, or very few cars, and the cars would be kept in that little cottage back there. So yes, we want to get the cars past the front of the house.
On page 64 of our design standards, new driveways and off-street parking should be located as unobtrusively as possible. Locating off-street parking in front yards is not appropriate. Locating off-street parking in the side yard is not appropriate if the area is visible from the street or the front yard. Driveways and alleys should be used to access the side or rear parking. That's page 64 of our standards.
so I'm just a little confused because we were saying you don't want them in the front yard, and now you're saying we can't even see them from the street?
That's what the book
And
says.
we-
That's the
That's,
I don't know any garage in Cape May that,
no, that,
that you can't see
But
down and see the
I think
garage.
it's saying, push it back as far as you can, so the ordinary person walking by wouldn't notice that the car's there, unless they're actually looking, spying.
Okay, so if we were, we're trying to work with you and understand what we need to do. So we can't park the car on the joint driveway because that's not allowed, right? But we could move the stair and put a car where the stair is, and then leave 2 and 3 car where they are now, or are you saying you want all the cars in the backyard?
well, ideally, we'd want them in the backyard. We want to try to be reasonable here. So if you were to move number 1 car back to where the number 3 car is, perhaps, and park it straight, it might be acceptable to the HPC. Does anyone have comments? to that?
I just have a question. So right now, it has this garage in the back, right, which is shared with the property next door.
Yes,
So what's the driveway to that garage?
it's grass.
Oh, there is no driveway.
There is no driveway, it's all grass.
All right.
But we can't block
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's grass from that garage all the way to,
all the way to the street.
so if the stairs were moved, then these cars could theoretically go like that in front of the garage, right?
Well, they can't. There's a piece of the, there's a piece that we can't, right? We can't go in here.
Yeah, there's a 5-foot,
It's a shared,
where I have the 5-foot setback, that's like,
We can't park
Shared.
in that.
the reason that was,
Okay.
it gives them both access to the back, and there's a fence there now. You see there's a fence?
Right, I do.
So we'd have to remove the fence now to get back there. I mean, technically, it's 4 bedrooms, we only need 2 cars. So I could take 7, I could take 1 and 2 off the drawing, and we're not in the front yard anymore.
That would be a great idea.
And then nothing changes.
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we parked in
Because I
front.
mean,
Yeah,
Corbin will
the
call the
street.
police.
Get rid
what's
of
that?
it. You could park on the street.
Well, so I could just change my drawing to take 1 and 2 away, and then 3 would become 1, and the garage would become 2, and that's all I need for residential site improvement standards. I mean,
Yeah.
That's
Then
a
I'll
bit,
just
that's a
change
bit
the
of
drawing.
gamesmanship, though. I mean, the issue is if you turn the stairs, then you could in fact have more
Well, I
cars.
could still drive by it with the stairs the way they are, because I have 17 feet there.
Right.
I don't need to move my stairs and then come back again for a new stair design.
But it just, without having that space, it's just they're going to continue to park the way they have been parking. If we follow that way.
But we can't help what they do after. I mean,
You,
But,
I cannot.
but we can prevent more favorable conditions to alleviate that.
Well, there's always going to be the space on the side of the house. I mean, we're not doing anything over there. It's always going to be, so, I mean, I think what Will is saying is that we showed on a holiday, on 4th of July, it's possible to park there, but we didn't need to show all those parking spaces. And it wasn't an issue at the last meeting.
well, it's an issue today.
Okay? Do you want us to resubmit this site plan?
Well, when we agree on what it is we're going to do, then yes.
Okay,
It seems to me that we've got to get the cars further back, 1 and 2 further back than where they are now. And so if you use 3, car number 3
There's one.
is 1 as far out as you can come, then you can show 2, 3, or 4 cars, whatever you want to do. But it seems to me that that's a reasonable compromise, given our standard.
we don't show this?
And you could,
So that
yeah,
we put one here, and
use the garage as one, and you got your two spaces.
Car would be here and that car would be there.
well, we'll actually have three, because the garage counts for one, too.
Well, I was thinking, you
They're back here.
put two and three, get one and two out of there.
So this car
Three
is-
becomes one,
Right.
and two becomes the garage.
Well, that's what we just suggested, but Warren doesn't think, he thinks we're playing games.
There is, right?
Well,
I'm not gonna be able to count that.
we are.
I mean,
So let me just, so I'm clear with this, I can resubmit this, get rid of 1 and 2, and not change anything else, and we're fine? Is that what I'm understanding, Warren?
You're gonna,
Mr.
and you're gonna label number 3, number 1,
Exactly. And
Right.
4, number 2.
and 4, number 2.
Okay.
Because I think you'll see as the future unfolds, this front street parking, this front yard parking will be enforced.
Yes. We
So-
got,
So the owner should expect that to be an issue.
And I'm confused how you get the car in the back with the fence there.
Where's the fence?
There's a fence right here.
Well, I have to change the fence then if you want me to park back there. Actually, I don't.
No,
Because
you-
I can use the drive aisle still to get back to the garage, and I avoid the fence.
Right, 'cause it looks like there's about 11 feet between the property line and the fence.
Oh, there's definitely enough room, because they couldn't get to that now, yeah. So nothing changes structurally on the lot, the fence is still there.
Right.
And then I just, space number 3 becomes 1,
And
the other 2 come off.
1 and 2 are eliminated.
Okay.
And before we open this up, the standing seam roof you're proposing,
yes,
you've heard us before with a 1-inch.
Yeah, 1 inch.
yes. And I believe that,
I drew it.
I believe we noted that on the drawing, and I believe that it's on the submittals sheet.
I don't think I.
Yeah, I looked further.
Darn, it's not. Okay, it may be on your drawing.
So I'm wondering why you would even put a standing seam roof on this house. I mean, do other houses like this have standing seam roof on them?
Not to my recollection.
Not to mine either, but I don't drive around and look. But why can't the front porch at least have the same roof it has right now?
Well, I mean, that,
Material roof.
that would certainly help with the pricing issue.
Well, and it would be appropriate, I mean, a real appropriate would be a cedar roof.
Right,
Right, I think we'd go with what the roof is there then,
yeah.
and do a asphaltic dimensional, architectural dimensional roof,
Both front and back, in lieu of the standing seam.
front and back.
Yeah, I would.
Okay,
Trouble with that is on the one part of the addition where you've got a 1.5 and 12 slope. You won't be able to use shingles there.
Yeah, we can do that. With ice and weather shield under it, you can use it just as a cover, yeah.
Really? I would I would strongly recommend against it.
Well, that's kind of why I was going to the standing seam.
Right, that's what I thought.
We're
Yeah.
not talking standing seam right now, we're talking to make it look like the other house.
Correct.
So,
Do we
if we're
have
making
the-
that change, then that's what I'm forced to do.
What was John's suggestion?
What's what?
John said he heard one thing.
He's talking about
Do,
the slope and it can't.
do we have other comments on this application? Again, we've deviated from going around the room, but that's not all bad.
I just find the addition to be,
Is your mic on?
John, can you talk
Yes.
to the mic?
yeah. Just wanted to comment that I find the addition sensitive and well done.
Thank you. So,
So,
just let me interrupt for a second, I'm sorry. So, we talked about removing the standing seam, and the preference is a asphalt roof,
the preference
is
is
to match what's
cedar.
there now. Well, in the discussion, though,
Yeah.
we're matching what's there now is asphalt. And I was up in the
Yes.
attic, and there's no there's no reference at all of pre-existing shingles up there. I was physically, well, it was so small, we were using our phone and the flashlight.
Yeah.
So we're going to put the asphalt roofs on the house. and
Dimensional.
We're going to match it on the addition and on the front porch. The way that I'm understanding.
Yes.
Correct? And then I need to, when I set that up, I need to use a special barrier underneath it on the asphalt, on the thing.
Yes.
And then we shorten the exposure
There you go.
because the wind's gonna wanna curl it. So yeah, we put like a 3-inch exposure in.
Good.
So it's basically decoration in the back.
It-
The warranty's not gonna,
Essentially, it's decoration over probably some sort of EPDM or
yeah,
Exactly.
we'll have to do that, but it'll look,
Fair enough.
it'll look like an asphalt when you look at it. 'Cause
Okay.
that's the material that'll finish in. Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
Other questions or comments?
No, other than the parking, I think it's a nice job.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept this application as presented, with the exception of the standing seam roof will, in the front and the back, will become asphalt fiberglass dimensional shingles, and a resubmission of the plan will show that the cars are sitting beyond the front of the house.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Ms. Bisagno. Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell,
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next order of business is ADIS Inc., 1317 Beach Avenue, Block 1146, Lots 6, 7, 10 through 24. This is a non-contributing property. They want to relocate the pool deck, patio, paving, and landscaping. So, you are?
My name is Richard Garber from Grow Architects in New York. We were before you right before Thanksgiving, November 21st, 2022, on this
I would ask you
project.
to speak up a little bit, please.
Shall I repeat myself? Okay, sorry about that.
Yes.
Richard Garber, Grow Architects. This is the final, I guess, the final submission for this site plan for Lemaire. We were before this board on November 21st, 2022. There are no changes. We've received planning board approval as well at this point.
George Andy, ownership.
Thank you.
So I'll just run you through the plans again briefly, but if you recall, this is a phase one to relocate the pool, jogged to the left, and then the addition of an indoor-outdoor space, which is on the right, to the restaurant of the hotel. The hotel occupies nearly a whole block. I listed the lots previously. Here it is in the C3 zoning map, and then some context images. This is the same PowerPoint I showed in November. I'll go through it fairly quickly. And then the work to be approved, I listed here: the windows, the fences, swimming pool, patios, decks, shed, outbuilding, accessory structures, additions, awnings, canopies, exterior door, roofing, siding, and exterior lighting. What you see here are all the materials that we've specified in our drawings for these. None of this is changed from when we were before you originally. And you can see down below, the scope of work is limited to the exterior courtyard space fronting Beach Avenue. A modest roofed addition is proposed adjacent to the existing restaurant, as well as new pavement and plantings. The existing pool is relocated, and new materials are proposed for the pool deck. This is our coverage analysis showing compliance. I won't go into that right now. The existing site plan existing ground floor plan, and you can see that, if you remember, our impervious coverage was at 75.9%. And then if I take you to the proposed, we dial that coverage actually back to 74.3%. And the planning board certainly appreciated that. And then you see here the dimensions of our pool location as well as the restaurant extension. Again, the impervious coverage. The pool is basically jogged to the left. There is a large green space, a lawn space that separates the restaurant and the pool. And then the materials, I have a material sample board here I can show again, but there's been no change to the materials that we originally submitted.
Ask you a question.
Sure.
You were here before and received conceptual approval, and then you had to go to planning? How does this differ from what you presented to us in the conceptual?
It does not differ.
Except for the fire pits were taken away. It looks to me that's the only difference, right?
There were fire pits that we showed on the conceptual that were removed. Actually, and that's it. And
the only
the
change.
reason why we removed them actually was, while we decided it was not the purview of this board, it was a suggestion that we took, and they are gone. So they were not included in the site plan application.
So, so I would ask the commission, if this is the same as what was presented before, with the only change being the fire pits, do we need a full presentation?
I would actually move to approve the submission.
I'd second.
Splendid idea.
Wonderful.
So, Judy, we have a motion.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Ms. Wilson Stridick. Mr. Copeland?
Yes,
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
so there
Thank
you go.
you. Good luck with
You
everything.
have to come get your wire.
You did.
Thank you. Next order of business is Brzezinski, 651 Broad Street, Block 1061, Lot 40, a non-contributing property, solar panels.
There you go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Fisher. I'm an in-house attorney for Trinity Solar. We're here making this application on behalf of the homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Brzezinski, for a installation of 5 solar panels on the roof of 651 Broad Street in Cape May. With me tonight are my colleagues Larry Murphy and Kevin Cura. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Larry Murphy, licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Kevin Cura, work with our design and installation departments in Trinity Solar.
Okay. Our application is relatively straightforward, but I'll let Mr. Murphy explain a little bit more about what we propose to do, and more importantly, why we feel that it meets the Historic Preservation Commission's goals of being virtually invisible from a public right-of-way.
Are they visible from the front yard?
No,
Are they visible from the side yard?
they're not visible from the north, from north looking south. They're not visible from Lafayette Street. They're not visible from the dog park. They're not visible traveling north on Broad Street. They're not visible traveling west on St. John Street. You have to be, we specifically located in behind the structure that protrudes from the roof. You have to be stopped and looking exactly knowing what you're looking for between the tree branches to see the rear roof. In my opinion, it's not visible from the pedestrian walking or the motorist driving.
This is not numbered, but this page, you all have this page in your packet. And you can see the solar panels back here. It seems to me that they're not visible from the front or the side yard. Does anyone have a concern about these 5 solar panels?
I would like to move to approve the submission.
Yeah, I was jealous.
Second.
You are, but that's right away. I'll see you.
Yeah. We try to only take applications that meet the intent.
We weren't here that long ago either. I think we were here 2 meetings ago.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yep.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was abandoned.
I know. I was thinking, wow, they're really lucky.
Next order of business. I just feel like I'm expediting, but I don't want to be impolite or something.
No, that's fine, that's good.
Next order of business, JTG Group LLC, 1382 Lafayette Street, Block 1145, Lot 6. This is a contributing property. It's an addition, doors, siding, roofing, front porch, deck, fire escape, and railings.
Good evening, everyone. Pam Fine from Fine Architecture. I am the project architect for 1382 Lafayette Street, also known as Century 21 Gilmartin and Company. With me tonight is Joe Gilmartin himself. So I'll run you through what we're proposing. Basically, we're not increasing the footprint of the structure at all. The existing walls will remain intact where they are and where they stand today. We are proposing a new front porch, and we're proposing some additions on the second floor, and I think the most noticeable is the addition on the third floor. So I'll run through those with you, and I also have a few photos that were not included with the packet, but I think are beneficial. And these are historic photos, so I think, oh, it looks like you might have them. Oh, okay, oh, perfect, all right. Great, so that's done. So yeah, you'll see the building that exists today does not have a front porch. It's just a front door with a small landing and steps down to the sidewalk. But you'll see in the old photos, there was a front porch. It looks like just the shed roof structure, very plain, not ornate in any way. So what we're proposing is similar to that, but we add a little bit of ornateness. It is on Lafayette. I wanted to have something that complements the streetscape. So we went with a little bit of a change with that. But if you want something simple, if you want something exactly as the photos show, we can definitely do that approach. You'll see also a change in the railing design that we were proposing. It's something more typical to Cape May with open spindles, but you'll see in the old photos, it looks like more of a board and batten or beadboard type railing. So it depends, you know, how true you want us to stay to those old photos. I'd be more than happy to alter the design to stay more true to those. But basically, that's it for the front porch. We do have a partial area that will not be covered, and you'll see that on the front porch on the left side. And that just gives access to that existing one-story area. But the majority of that porch will be covered as it appears in the old photos. And on the remaining sides of these structures, we have various landings. We needed fire escape along the back, so that has been added. Some new AC units. So that's pretty much it for the site plan, as you see on P1. We do have a loose stone parking area that we are not changing, same curb cut. We are proposing a new brick walkway, however, to the front entry. So I'll go to the next sheet, and this will show you basically what we're planning on doing as far as floor plans. The existing footprint, as I said before, is not changing. We're just basically reorganizing the interior layout. First floor will be purely commercial, and you'll see the new covered front porch, a new open deck at the front. Towards the back, we have this fire escape. We also have a small landing, and then the AC units along the right side with a small landing as well. On the second floor, if you look at the, or if you know the building as it stands today, there's that left side portion that juts out. That's only 1 story right now. So we're proposing a second floor addition to that area only. And you'll see in the elevations how that correlates with the remainder of the frontscape. And basically, that whole level will start where start with the residential units. We'll have 2 units on that floor. Left side is 1 unit, right side is the other, bisected by the stair and a hallway. We're also proposing a new elevator. And you'll see towards the back, again, that fire escape. If we go to page P3, you'll see the 3rd floor plan, and this is really where the bulk of the changes occur. We have a 3rd floor already. It's that Dutch gambrel area with the 3 dormers along the front. So we're proposing an addition along the back, which will mimic that Dutch gambrel roof. So we'll have various dormers, you'll see, and it's a little bit easier to understand from the elevations themselves how the Dutch gambrel is working. But basically, we're working within a roof line of the Dutch gambrel, various dormers, and this will be its own unit, its own residence on the 3rd floor. And then finally, we do have a little bit of open space, again, on that left side jut out where you see that open deck. And then from the street, that's just going to look like a flat roof deck with a railing. You'll see on the front elevation how that ties in together, which I think really makes a pleasing front elevation for the entire building. And along the right side, you'll see where the Dutch gambrel roof continues all the way around. Right now, in the back on the 3rd floor, we have just a simple gable. So I think having that Dutch gambrel tying into that front element, I think is a nice feature. And then same goes for the remaining elevations. You'll see the Dutch gambrel continued around the back. The fire escape is shown. And then along the left side as well, we have a small gabled dormer on the side. And you'll see the roof deck as well. And then, so I'll jump into materials. Right now, we have, let's see. We have an asphalt and asphalt roof, so we're continuing with the asphalt on the new roof, but we're proposing a standing seam metal front porch roof. The fascia, the soffits, the siding, window trim, we're proposing all new wood. Doors will be JELD-WEN, all wood, columns, painted wood, railings, new painted wood. I have the detail along the back. Decking will be wood. We're proposing either Ipe or mahogany. Foundation, we have a brick veneer shown over CMU. And then we do have a large HVAC enclosure, which will be painted wood. And our only change to driveways and walkways will be a new brick walkway. The existing driveway and parking area will remain unchanged. And I think it's worth noting that right now we do have asbestos on the entire structure. So we're proposing removing that We don't know what the condition is underneath of that. If it's worth saving the wood, we'll certainly try to save it, but we're kind of taking the approach of doing new wood siding just in case. I think that's it. So we're seeking conceptual approval tonight. We'll have to get variances for the front porch and floor area ratio. So we'll be back for final.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go around the room real quickly. John, you want to start?
Sure, a question and then 2.5 comments.
Okay.
Right? So the question is, the shutters that you're showing, I don't find anywhere in the drawings that calls them out what their material are, and are they movable?
Okay.
So our standards on page 59 states that shutters should be wood and
Yep.
movable with brackets, as you know, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure that that's the case. It was difficult to identify the historical characteristics of the project because there wasn't a historical survey submitted with this. So, do you have one?
A historical survey?
Yes, the historical survey of the properties that you can obtain from
Individual
Judy's
property
office.
survey.
Each individual property survey?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so they look like, they're the ones that, that last project had one.
Is that something we order, or is that available
It's
online?
available. Judy would have it.
In the office.
Oh, you have it?
I think there's one on 1005.
Yeah,
Is it rated?
it's contributing.
Yeah, it's contributing.
Yeah, it's a contributing structure, but, so those historical individual property surveys, it's a fairly in-depth description of what are the features and characteristics that qualify the structure.
Okay,
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 5 each. This,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So we really need one of those in
Okay.
order to, I think, properly assess this. So
Gotcha.
I found it difficult to be able to do much, particularly with my 1.5 last comments. And that has to do with differentiating an addition from the existing structure. And I'm having a hard time being able to differentiate it clearly here, particularly with regard to what our standards say on page 59, or page 53 with regard to the massing protecting the integrity of the original structure. And that's my one concern about this. It's pretty massive, and because the gambrel roof that you're putting on the addition matches the gambrel roof of the existing structure, simply turned 90 degrees, it's hard to differentiate it as an addition as opposed to trying to look like it was part of the original structure. That's my concern.
Is that a bad thing?
It is. In fact, it's directly out of our standard that, well, if you look on page 53, I'll read it to you. New additions, new work shall be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. So some means of differentiation, I think, is going to need to be incorporated into the design.
Sometimes we look for the addition to be, in this instance, we look for it to be kicked in maybe a foot or two, which would.
Yeah, and where it's most disturbing for me in this regard is actually on the front elevation, where it used to be a one-story shed roof, which is now a two-story with a porch on top of it, where the front elevation is flush with the historical structure's front elevation, and its style, massing, and configuration is significantly different.
So you'd like to see that corner
Sure.
piece still? Okay.
Yep.
Other pieces of the property, though? You mentioned the back Dutch gambrel.
Well, the one on the right side's a little ambiguous, because the addition to the original structure is flush with that side wall, but in the old version, it was a lower roof, so it was clearly differentiated. Now that you're taking the roof all the way up to match the existing gambrel, it becomes a little more ambiguous whether it's trying to be part of the original structure or differentiated. So it's hovering right on that line for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
The old fascia line on the right side elevation.
Yep.
That was maintained. So the Dutch gambrel was maintained, the old gable eave line was maintained. The new Dutch gambrel will have a different pitch. And I know it's hard to tell from a 2D version, But the new Dutch gambrel towards the back will have a different pitch that will not look like that front portion.
Well, one of the ways I think you could differentiate it very simply, for me, right away, would be if the ridge line wasn't exactly at the same elevation of the existing ridge line, and you could change the slope of the top half. You can't do that?
No, 'cause
You don't
if
have
you
enough
look-
headroom?
No, there's not enough room. You literally have to crawl along the back. It's
Wait a
maybe
minute.
like 4 feet tall.
No, you would, because if you look, if this head height is at 6'8", I'm assuming those windows are at 6'8",
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what it means is that roof is up there at least 10'8". You could drop just this part,
Oh, just
just
lower- oh.
enough so that the ridge
Oh,
isn't
I see.
identical,
I
and
thought
then
you
it would
meant
be differentiated
maintain.
for me. Yeah?
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep,
Great. That's all for me.
I gotcha.
Lorraine?
Just a couple of quick comments. Of course, all of us drive by this property all the time, looking at the front elevation. I love the addition of the front porch. Looking at the proposed site plan, is there an existing site plan as well?
There should be on the S1 sheet, you'll see existing site plan.
Okay.
It's towards the back, it's like third from the back.
Elevations there.
Oh, it's under the, okay. I just, there wasn't much detail even on the proposed site plan, as far as the, the drive aisle. That's right.
So because we're changing the number of units, we're gonna have a civil engineer design the drive pattern and parking and all that. So that's way out of my experience level, so.
Okay.
We will have that for this next
And I understand your
final.
conceptual, so you're,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
But no other comments. Thank you.
thank you.
Well, as usual, John said everything I was going to say. I was about the differentiation, and you answered that. And the other thing is, I really think that this is going to do a lot for Lafayette Street. The Octagon House is being renovated, and then this, and it really is quite an improvement over what is there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Corbin?
I only have one comment. There are, at the existing sidewalk,
Mm-hmm.
there are 2 steps up from the parking lot. They are killers.
Yeah.
They, some way you replace them, and actually make them wide enough.
I was gonna say, maybe
Yeah.
make them wider so it's not a step. Maybe it's more of a landing each time.
I mean,
Yeah,
I have bad legs, so I notice that kind of.
gotcha. Okay, I can change that.
Pip?
My only comment really is about the addition, and the addition of the third floor.
Okay.
So houses like this traditionally would have been lower. I mean, it would have been an L, right? Like it is actually an L on this, where it was lower, the roof line was lower.
Towards the back?
Right.
Okay.
And I think it was very unusual, maybe probably didn't ever happen, that what came off as the L was exactly the same
Okay.
as the front of the house. I don't think that ever happened.
Gotcha.
So I really kind of object to recognize, aside from the gambrel roof, I also think this should be lower somehow, if that's at all possible, which I guess it is a little bit possible, since already somebody's up front,
I
right?
think that's what
John,
John was.
yeah.
John was proposing that this elevation, pitch rather, changes so that the elevation is lower.
I'll try to drop the ridge line about a foot, and that way you'll have a little delineation towards the back of the peak.
All right, well, I would say more than that. I mean, I think it should be, I mean, dropping it a foot is like nothing. What's the point? But I think it should look more like this is an L, which is more to the architecture of that house, than that this is a 3-story house, which is what it's going to look like. I mean, we have some examples of this in town where it just really totally changes the whole design and characteristic. But the rest of it, other than that, I mean, I think the addition of the front porch is great.
Okay.
I think all this other stuff is good. I'm curious, like, when did this turn into this?
I don't know. I wish there was a date on that one. That doesn't have a date. So it's pre-1925.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something when they decided that they were going to have a big remodel, right?
right.
So, anyway, but I agree, you know, it will be a big addition to Lafayette Street, but I think some attention should be given to the back of this building.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like a three-story house.
Would you rather it be stay a gable and then do dormers and just keep that same language that's already there, and then we just use dormers to get the extra space for the residents?
Yeah, I probably would like that better, yes.
Maybe do that, okay, instead of doing the Dutch gambrel all around.
Two issues here. The issue that John was bringing up about the differentiation,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is important because in this particular situation, nothing is differentiated, really.
Right,
And what I'm suggesting is that it needs to be even lower than that.
Okay.
And doing it with gables, that would be fine.
okay.
I mean, I recognize you have to have some headroom up there, right?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do, though.
Maybe that's why they put the gambrel on, so that they got the third floor.
Yep, I think so.
That's probably what happened. Yeah. Pip really articulated what I was concerned about, that the addition of the gambrel changed the farmhouse. It was an old farmhouse. It was a nice, simple, these are very popular right now, right? But that design got changed with the gambrel, and then by expanding the gambrel, you completely overshadow the original character, which you didn't have the benefit of the survey. And a lot of people don't understand this whole thing about differentiation. It's not about making it opposed to the original. It's about an informed observer, someone who knows architectural language, would be able to look at the house and kind of see its history. So the story would still be there. So you always do a beautiful job. I'm sure it's going to be great.
See what I can do.
But I agree that the original farmhouse, it would be low, and, you know, like what you're seeing in these photos. And so that's a bit of a challenge, but creative people love challenges, right?
I'm up for it.
Okay, it's funny, most people come in with a contributing property, and they're adding a bunch of rooms, really to turn it into a whole house rental.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm looking at it, and how many offices were in that building? It seemed like more than Crest Haven. So I think this is a good rehabilitation.
It's very
and
confusing
adaptive
layout.
use. One other thing was that, I don't know whether it was just my packet or not, but I didn't see catalog cuts.
Oh.
The doors and windows.
Oh, okay. We didn't pick a door yet. We were going with the Geldwin, all wood, non-clad, pre-primed. So I'll have a cut sheet of
Yeah,
that.
so my concern would
Yeah.
be the doors, the windows, and exterior lighting, which it says see attached, but I don't.
Yeah, it's just a photo. We'll get an actual spec when we come back for final.
Yeah, I have no additional comments. Do I have a motion? This is a conceptual. John, would you make
Sure.
the motion, please?
I'll move to approve this conceptually with the following caveats, that there's a clearer differentiation between the existing structure and the addition, that we need a more defined site plan with parking and landscaping, and to accompany this with both the historical property survey and materials cut sheets for the final.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Cogswell. Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell,
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thanks.
Next order of business, Bogle Family Irrevocable Trust, 102 First Avenue, Block 1015, Lot 6. This is a non-contributing property. It's a rooftop deck and exterior stairs.
How much photo?
Okay, we need names in relationship to the property, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Anthony Monzo from Monzo Cadenet Stellalis, representing the applicant Joe Bogle. Sitting to my left, sitting to my right is Pam Fine, who's the project architect, and we have Bill Vada, who's the contractor. He's here to answer any questions that may come up, but Ms. Fine will be doing most of the presentation. I just want to do a little bit of an introduction, if I may. I mean, it's classified as a rooftop deck, but it's really just touching the roof, and really it's an elevated deck that's at the level of the rooftop. And this is a bungalow-style home. It's non-contributing, and it's undergone various renovations over the years. Notably, a few years ago, the front porch, which was actually on First Avenue, was enclosed, and the entrance was made permanent on Mount Vernon. So the orientation of the house has changed as a result of that. There was also some work done to the second floor with some dormers to increase the second floor space. But most notably over recent years, homes, the scale of homes has gotten enormous in this area, especially with the views of the meadows and the Cove Beach. And large homes are being built all around Mr. Bogle's home with large elevated decks, and even though they may not be on the top of the roof, they're way above where this deck is being proposed. And there's also, and I just want to pass out some exhibits just as a frame of reference. There's a home just two doors away that has a much larger rooftop deck than what. And we are, by the way, here for conceptual approval because there are some existing non-conforming conditions. We need to go to the zoning board, but we wanted to get the conceptual review first by the HPC. Ms. Fine will go through the project design and the material list, and as you can see, based on what was submitted, the deck will be wood, the railings will be wood, the stairs will be wood, the door leading out to it would be a wood door. So all natural materials are going to be used for this project. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Fine so she can take you through the design and also the materials and answer any questions.
Okay, hello again. I'm going to start on P1. You'll see the floor plans, and this is a fairly small project compared to others. So we're really just putting an elevated deck on the back left side corner of the house. We're trying to situate it in a way that you don't see it from Mount Vernon, and we're trying to shield it from First Avenue. If you look at those photographs, if you look at the one taken from First Avenue, you'll see a large tree. So where that large tree is basically where this deck's going to find its home. We're situating it on that lower ridge line. You'll see there's an existing dormer that runs and bisects that lower ridge line, that hip dormer there. So it's going to be sitting on that lower ridge, but you'll see the railings will sit a little bit higher. But we are intending on having it be blocked from the front, from Mount Vernon, by that hip dormer, and the tree should do most of the blocking from First. The roof deck itself, the elevated deck is about 15'10" by 12'4". The stairs take up a good chunk of that area, so it's essentially a little bit smaller than that. But these stairs will wrap around that back corner and then hook into a flat roof below. So there's a one-story portion. I shouldn't say flat. It's a slightly angled shed roof. So we will land on that area. We'll build a new elevated landing. Where we have the door shown inside of the house, there's an existing window there. So we're using that opening to provide access to this landing. And then the stairs will basically hug that back corner and wind up to the new roof deck. Only one portion of the roof deck will be touching the existing house. We will not need to do any heavy demolition or reconstruction to the existing house. Honestly, it's going to barely affect anything that is structural. So we will just need basically a post base to attach it to the roof, and then the remaining 3 sides will be self-supporting. So we're trying to disturb as least as possible and use materials that will complement the existing bungalow. We're proposing all wood, wood railing, wood decking, wood posts, and the existing materials on the house will remain. The roof will remain. Windows will remain, no changes to that being proposed. I believe that's it.
I just wanted to explain the photos. A1 and A2 are a home that's two homes away from the applicant's home on Mount Vernon that has a second-floor porch as well as a rooftop deck. A3 is a home that's located on First Avenue. This photo's taken from the rear from Second Avenue. As you can see, this home has 4 decks. I mean, there's an at-grade deck, and then there's a second, third, and fourth floor deck. And then the last photo, A4, is a home that's on Second Avenue with, again, decks on the first, second, and third floors. So Mr. Bogle's home is just being dwarfed by all this construction, and he's just trying to get, views of the meadows and of the cove area like the other homeowners with these large porches are getting. So we believe it's a modest addition that's really, even though it's not a contributing building, this addition really has no impact on the building. It's separate and distinct from the building itself, just attached at that one section of the roof. So with that, we'll answer any questions and entertain comments from the commission. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments and the photos, but as you know, each application is evaluated on its own merit. What happened in the past, we have no control over.
Understood.
I know this is not a contributing home, but this kind of landing sitting on top of the roof is not reflective, I don't think, of what we're trying to accomplish in Cape May. This looks like some other community. So I have reservations about it. Having said that, though, let's go around the room. Jake, we'll start with you today.
I do walk through that neighborhood quite a bit, and, there are quite a few houses there that have decks similar to this, but again, as the chairman said, there's no precedent before this board. I kind of agree in that it kind of looks something that would be in maybe Sea Isle City or Ocean City. If there was some way to maybe make it blend into the house a little better where it wouldn't stick out like a hat on top. Like maybe bringing some of the shake siding up to the point of the roof, or something that would make it blend in a little better.
Any way, can you address that comment?
To me, that would be more noticeable as something that was added. I'd like the railing because it's open. In this photograph, they used the cable railing. I know we were proposing wood, but the cable railing essentially will disappear. And then if we tried to lower the rooftop deck, then it's, why do it at that point to make it, invisible? You're going to lose your views of the meadow. So that's a tough one.
Well, let's continue around the room, and then Janice.
Yeah, I agree. The other large decks are very visually obtrusive, and it's in the midst of a lot of really important historic buildings. So there's nothing about these decks that makes me want to say yes. I don't know how you would make it a sensitive addition to the historic area.
Yep.
Well, I live a lot of time in Philadelphia, and I'll tell you what people in Philadelphia want is these decks. have them up on top of their house. But I think the Historic Preservation Commission has done a pretty good job of getting people to position these decks so that they're not so obvious from the street. So I personally don't know, enough about design, but this looks very obvious. Like when I'm looking at these, like you see it, right? And it's hard for you not to see it because this house has two sides that you're gonna see it on, right?
Yes.
But I'm wondering if there were a way of moving it back is probably not the right way. But I mean, I wonder if there would be a way of kind of doing something with it so it wasn't quite so visible from the street. And it's hard to see, obviously, on these plans, but, is somebody gonna be going like that to be able to see it? It would be nice if if they were walking down the street and it wasn't immediately visible. Something like that, I think, would be, I don't know how this fits with that. Will you see it when you're walking down the street?
You definitely
Yes.
will not see it from Mount Vernon. It's a little more difficult from First Street along the front. That's why I thought it was a good location where that tree was. The tree's high enough and it's very dense that it would basically block that whole railing along that side. So, and even being on the sidewalk on First Avenue, close to the house, I believe that you still would not be able to see that, so.
So what you're saying is if you're standing on Mount Vernon, you really can't see that deck, even though I
No.
can see it looking at this flat plate?
Yeah, so it's, I think I have a photo
You'll be able to see.
taken.
It's covered a little bit by the tree. The trees don't last forever, so.
I have a photo. Let's see. Here we go. So this is from Mount Vernon, and you can't even see the dormer from that angle. So the dormer would be here. You could see a little piece of that dormer poking out. So the deck would be back here. You would not see it from that angle.
Yes, you'll see it, it protrudes to the left of that little, the little dormer that you just pointed to. See that little, and this deck extends to the left of that.
But we're further back even, though.
Would you be able to do a rendering?
I can't do a rendering, but I know someone who can.
So somebody suggested one time recently that, and I don't know about this either, so you can tell me if I'm like crazy, but like doing a 3D drawing would show better, would allow people to better see what the proportions are.
Let's continue around the room. Corbin?
This reminds me of one that we've had a couple years ago. I don't know. Joe, did you put in an application for something similar to this a couple years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago?
About 12 years ago.
About 12 years ago.
It was,
I'm fly.
it was,
You've been on this board that long.
it was in the difference is it was in the front. So this was done in the rear to not have it visible from the street. There may be parts of it you can see, as Pam points out. Most of it is really sheltered by the roof, and maybe a street-level rendering might help the perception of that.
I mean, it looks like a late add-on that really doesn't fit with the building. That's my impression of it, yeah. I don't like these decks either. So, I mean, the building has really good proportions to it now.
Yeah.
But it's, this sort of takes away from the proportions of the building.
I mean, if this was, and we went through I think it was page 53, I think you may have referenced previously, and we went through that, even if it was an historic or a contributing building, and we went through the 10 points, and you may want to touch on some of them, Pam, and we feel that having it look like an addition as opposed to trying to fit in as part of the building is what you're looking for, even if it was, in this case, it's not even a contributing building. So you know, it can be removed without
But
changing the
there are
character of the building.
there are additions that do not detract from the building and additions that do. And this is one that does. And it's just my opinion, my aesthetics.
Let's continue around. Additional comment?
No.
B?
I kind of agree with Pip. I know that people do love decks, and I think that if this were ever to be for sale, you know, as the owner, it would be more valuable. I also think that you went to a great amount of trouble to make sure that it wasn't seen from the street. I drove, as I do with all of the applications, I drove around, I looked, you're right, there are several decks in that area, several houses larger, and it's non-contributing. But perhaps in the efforts to make it not so discernible, you could come back, as Tony said, with another rendering. Maybe if the board wants that, we could table this and bring it back.
I think that's an option, but let's continue around the room and see where we are. Lorraine, you have a comment?
Yeah, just having that rendering might be a good idea, that 3D rendering, to be able to see it, but also being pretty knowledgeable about that property and that picture that you showed. There's a pretty big berm that's on the
Yes.
front of that, and I think that that might be what we're seeing that might be a little bit deceiving, where you can't understand and see what, you know, can you see it, can you not see it? So I think that that picture, that kind of set a light bulb off with me. So.
It is set high.
It
and
is.
the roof lines are very high to begin with, so it, in 2D, it looks small because it's a 1.5
Right.
story, but you actually have like 5-6 feet of dirt, you know.
Yeah, I think it can be a little
So,
deceptive
yeah.
with how you're looking at it. So you know, maybe coming back with a,
Yeah,
as B was saying, and Pip as well, so.
okay.
John?
Okay.
Well, so conceptually, I have no aversion at all to providing a viewing deck like this, but putting it on top of this house, I think, is entirely inappropriate. But hold on, bear with me. I think I have a reconciler to offer you, all right? So I just want to comment that I think this house has been an abuse victim before this. I mean, the property, an abuse victim. The property is non-contributing property by virtue of extensive alterations to the building, such as the replacement of windows, doors, et cetera. But ultimately, it has lost the integrity of its design, workmanship, and materials because it's been so abused. I don't think that's licensed to do something that's going to even more take away from its integrity, particularly in one place. But again, I'm going to offer you, I think, a reconciler. Where I'm most disturbed by this is when I look at the elevation on, proposed right side elevation on P2. One of the defining characteristics of this beautiful bungalow are those 2-foot super deep eaves with brackets. In order for you to make this stair work in this location, you had to cut off a whole chunk of that eave.
Yes.
Just to be able to get the head height to get up there. Well, a couple ways we could probably solve this. First of all, what if, and the good news is you tuck this in the most hidden corner of the site, between the garage and that back corner. What if it were virtually almost entirely detached from the house, and that there was a stair from that back porch? I've actually done a couple little sketches here. A stair from that back porch probably wouldn't be able to be as big as 16 by 12.4, but you could get easily 12.4 square probably, which is a sizable viewing platform, and perhaps even created as if it were a not inappropriate structure that doesn't do any further damage to the house. Does that make sense to you?
I'm not following.
Totally
No, I can show you.
Yeah.
freestanding, totally freestanding.
Yeah. Well, not quite, but almost. So for example, you could do something like this. And again, I think the rendering would solve this. If it wasn't sitting on top of the house but moved over here, the site plan, I couldn't do the scale of site plan, but between the house and the garage, and that way, none of this is happening on top of the house. You're not cutting away that eave. The
Right.
stair would have to pull out the depth of the eave.
But now you see it over here, right?
Not so much, because the garage is here, about there, so it would be, the reality of seeing it here or here, I don't think is much difference.
I think you'll see it from Mount Vernon now. Yeah.
All I'm saying is that to try and put this really inappropriate crow's nest on top of a beautiful bungalow that's already been abused, to me is just more abuse.
No, I got you.
Having said that, and B's comment, one of the things that we could do, if you're in agreement, we could table this so you could give this some further thought, but also provide a 3D kind of drawing, so we would have better information to make the decision. Right now, I don't know, but my guess is this would not fly as it is. If you're willing to waive the time limit, we could table this, and you could come back next month or the month after or something with another shot at it.
But I'd like to add one thing, though. We mentioned earlier about how you attempted to differentiate it, but the second part of that has to be, it has to be complementary or compatible as well. So, that's the trick.
Is it,
Yeah, and what I would also take a look at, to reduce its visibility, if it's not up on that roof, because it had to be so high to get above the roof, if it's separated from that roof, maybe it doesn't have to be quite as high, and you can still get the visibility to the meadow. I would go up on a ladder and check that out.
Maybe
Right?
fly a drone or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
are other commission members in agreement with separating it from the house, even though the visibility may be a little greater from Mount Vernon?
I'm hesitant to open it up. I mean, it's a good comment, and we all make ourselves available to Pam for our individual observations and comments as you go through this. But I think the better thing to do at this point would be to table it, give Pam an opportunity to, and the owner, an opportunity to consider alternatives.
Okay.
And then come back. And you'll lose a little time, but I think it would be time well spent. And you'd have to agree to waive the period.
If I just may make a comment. John, I don't know what word you were using, abuse, whatever.
I was a little harsh, I'm sorry.
I've been there since 1961.
Yeah.
And some of the reasons for the abuse were family, medical problems, and so forth.
Yeah.
Since 1961, that neighborhood was all houses just like this house.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you gone down there?
Yes, and I think most of what,
It's atrocious.
Yeah, it is.
oh, yeah, I know. Most of what I think the abuse that the house suffered was before 1961, it appears to me, because,
The man that built it was John Rutherford in 1917,
yeah,
and he lived there. And he built every house in that neighborhood.
yeah, this
How
is,
do I know that? Because there was an attic. And in the attic, he carved his name, his wife's name, and the year he built it, and who lived there with him.
oh,
So
Cool.
I don't think he abused it.
no, it's a beautiful, I mean, it's a specimen little bungalow that just has been kind of repeatedly,
As someone who's been there for 62 years, and now, and I live there year-round. I've lived there my whole life, year-round. These houses going up around, I'm throwing myself at your mercy. As we go back and do something, I'm going to ask you to do something, rethink this. Because you absolutely, the one thing that Cam and Tony and Billy, we all agreed on, is you would absolutely not be able to see this from the street. And you can. If you go to my house, it's one of maybe 3 houses in Cape May that's up on a hill, first of all. If you're on it, you can't see it.
yeah.
You can't even see it if you go in the driveway. We made sure of that. Now, maybe this three-dimension picture will help, but I don't want to waste my time and money drawing a three-dimension picture, and it's very clear that you can't see it. These drawings are very clear to me. You cannot see this from the street under any circumstances, and those of you who have visited, you know that.
So
That's the issue.
my biggest concern is that some of the character-defining aspects of that house as it's currently designed, a significant portion in a very awkward place of that deep 2-foot eave in brackets has to be removed to get the headroom for the stair to go up. So that, to me, is kind of performing surgery of removing pieces of the house that are defining characters of its wonder. And that I cannot support at all.
I think the issue, though, in response to your observation, I believe you believe that you can't see it, but we don't have that information, and we can't make a decision based on you saying you won't be able to see it. Most of us are familiar with the street. Many of us have gone past this house for this meeting. So I really think the best solution is to table it, but we're not guaranteeing that it comes back and then we're going to approve it. The issue is to have enough information that we can see what this is going to look like when it's done. And we don't have that information now.
Excuse me, it's not, they're talking about these brackets being cut out from the
Oh, the roof overhang, because we have to get the stairs. The overhang here. So basically like this, but on the other side. You can't walk up, so we'll have to remove part of that. So the only way around doing that.
Try to figure this out and come back here. With the understanding that you might say no, I get it. I was on this committee. I get it.
Well, may I ask a question? I really think tabling it is a good idea, but from what I could tell, the objection was not so much as if you could see it, but the design itself.
It's both. I think it's both. I mean, it looks like a deck with a railing around it, and if you can see it from the front yard, then that's going to be a problem, I think.
But we're also looking at a neighborhood that's been really overwhelmed with deck fever. And I think John's idea of bringing it back to some of its original integrity, you have great stories about this house, making it more compatible. I mean, like you said, you've been on this commission. We don't always agree on everything. You want the deck. You have a good architect. You have a lot of information from us. That's why Warren suggested tabling it and coming back, right?
I didn't hear much about the design.
Well, it's a deck, and it has a railing around it. In fact, I think that's one of the problems, but
But what John said was to do with the actual integrity of the building and the past abuse and the possible not continuing, right? Am I interpreting
Yeah, so
that?
one of the things that I'm trying to image it, and that was a little sketch that I drew, which the way I'm imaging it, I think I could support it. If it were, and I would want to go up there and see exactly how high it needs to be in order to get the view. Because it may be driven currently, the height in the drawings, by virtue of the existing height of the roof, and it may not need to be that high. Therefore, if it's pulled away, maybe it can be low enough that you could actually put a kind of a cool little bungalow-ish shaped
careful there, John.
pitched roof on it, right? And that way it starts to look like it is at least in the language of the architecture from 1917 when this house was built, as opposed to just a flat deck with a railing around it, which would not have been there.
Instead of the railings, would it be better if he used the same siding material around it?
So we would have to see its mass and its form and its location, and that would be these are design studies. And if you have a piece of software that can build this thing in the software, you can look at it from anywhere, and that way we'd be able to tell right away, where do you have views of it and where don't you?
All right, let's you have a lot of information. So, do you want a table?
Yes.
Come back?
And we'll waive,
Table
we'll
this
waive the
for
time constraints.
45 days?
Yes.
We'll have some, well, as soon as we can get something together, we'll have it in, hopefully for the next meeting.
All right, good, thank you. Table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, Clemens,
Hey,
50.
Bill, This real little, Molly, if you don't work.
504 Jefferson Street, Block 1074, Lot 8. This is a contributing property. Elevation, new front porch, dormer, repair the pool and patio to connect to an accessory building.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Deborah Sloan-White from Asher Sloan-White Architects, and with me are our clients, the Clemens, Catherine and Stephen, owners of 504 Jefferson Street.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you.
Actually, before you get started,
Yes.
you want to raise this building, right?
We need to raise this building.
We need an elevation certificate. It's one of the requirements that the board is, because we want to make sure that these are being raised only to the minimum, and we can't do that with you all telling us that's what it's got to be.
Of course, we have an elevation certificate, and I will submit it to the board. We are raising it the bare minimum that we possibly can. So starting with the site plan page A 1.0, this page does include actually that FEMA map showing us where our potential flood zone is, the existing survey, and then our proposed site plan. You will see that as a direct result of having to lift this building, we are proposing adding 2 stairs out of the rear of the home to the back patio, and then also expanding the existing landing at the front door into a full covered entry porch, respecting all of your zoning laws, respecting the light, air, and open space on this corner property, but also acknowledging that raising this house 43 inches, it seemed a bit underwhelming to go up that number of steps to a small brick landing, which is currently there. Citing the historic report on the home and the value of that barrel vault over the front door, we have included that in our proposal for the new front porch. The rear yard, again, as a result of lifting the house and having to add these steps, we are proposing to reduce the size of the existing pool, not remove it, but just reduce the size of it. We are also reconfiguring some of the existing paving, taking away a concrete pad at one area, adding it to create a patio that spans between the pool and the existing garage building. We are proposing also to elevate the integrity of the existing home by removing the existing vinyl siding, asphalt roofing, and extensive exterior piping, which is cleverly disguised as downspouts, but actually houses the HVAC system for the home. Our new proposal is for a cementitious clapboard siding, new cedar roof. The front porch would be built, we state AZAC as a preferred building material, acknowledging the board's request for wood. We certainly could adapt to that. We are scaling the front porch to mimic the existing sun porch. The sun porch does have round columns. We are proposing site-built square columns, but with the same detailing. The last part of the process is, in fact, expanding the existing dormer. The 3rd floor of this home is used. It is a finished space. By reconfiguring the windows in the existing dormer, we are hopefully reducing the bulk of it and adding flanking dormers that are set back and reduced in scale to allow that primary existing dormer to remain. We're also proposing to add a fence and reclad the existing non-contributing garage structure to match the new materials on the new, on the home. I know that's a lot to take in. We did prepare 3-dimensional renderings, which are further back in your set of drawings. They start on A 4.0. We are intending to replace the existing windows with new divided light wood Pella windows, which is in your packet of proposed materials.
The rendering on A4 is with the elevation completed?
Yes,
And so you're raising this, elevating this house 41 inches
correct.
from its current, so it's sitting on the ground?
Right now, it is one step up. It's pretty low.
And then 41 inches to the top of the first floor,
Correct.
right? From
Yes.
existing.
The top of the existing first floor would be raised, yes.
Yeah.
We are proposing to clad the foundation that will be added in brick. There's a sample of an image of that on the last page of the packet, A5.2. The new porch would be built on piers as well, clad with the brick with lattice panels in between, in keeping with a Cape May aesthetic. We are proposing on the existing sunroom, the roof right now is flat, which causes some challenges. We are proposing a new roof on that sunroom with a 1-inch standing seam metal, and we're also proposing a metal roof on the dormer because of the low slope.
And the elevation is FEMA required.
Yes. FEMA and Cape May. We are, the intended scope of work, including the interior of the home, will exceed the 40% assessed value of the home, and therefore we are strongly encouraged, also known as forced, to raise it.
And you have the, you don't have it here, but you have the elevation.
I might actually have it here. I think I might. If not, we definitely have had it done. I can certainly get it to you if I don't have it with me.
Well, I would suggest we deal with this, conceptually, because without that, I don't think we can go to final
Understood.
without that survey.
Okay. I do actually have it right here. Would you like me to, can I hand it to you?
Well, we're,
Or do you want me to read it to you so you all can hear it?
no, I think what we're gonna have to do is, we'll have to get copies for everybody in the file and give everyone a chance to look at it. And so I would argue that for conceptual, we'll accept your premise, but it'll be conceptual until that's distributed and we all have a chance to look at it.
Understood.
Is that okay? Yeah. So, yeah, if you get a number of copies to Judy, she can distribute it
Okay.
to us. So, for conceptual, we accept your premise, and
Great.
let's move on. It's interesting because I go, exercise walk thing that I do, I go past this house probably every day, almost every day. There's some big changes here, so let's, whether we should go. Corbin, you want to start off?
Well, I know you say it looks like it's kind of silly to have just a small stoop going up with with steps, but this style building, I don't think would have had a front porch originally. And, you know, I call it a federal-style house, which didn't have front porches at the time. And the, having a stoop was sort of traditional. Some of them, they would have stairs coming both ways down, or, you know. Also, I see on here, you're calling the garage a cabana room. Are you going to do any alterations to that to make it a cabana? I mean, you're going to cut doors in it, and
We are going to add a door and a window that face into the side yard. The front of it, the garage door, the shape of the building will not change.
I would like to see, instead of the ferrous cement siding, a white cedar siding, which can be stained or painted, which would also be in keeping with the time frame of the house.
Okay.
I like your little balcony out there,
Off the rear.
at the rear. Looks like something that would come out of Shakespeare.
It is.
Romeo and Juliet?
That's my comments.
B, you have a comment?
I don't really.
Lorraine?
Not at this point.
John?
We sometimes disagree up here. I don't really have a problem with the front porch at all. In fact, I think it's of value. But if you look at the historical report on this house, it says that it's a good example of early 20th century plan book, Dutch colonial, and it retains a medium level of architectural integrity. The level would rise if the vinyl siding were to be removed.
Yes.
And so, generally speaking, for contributing houses, we find that not using wood siding, wood windows, and wood for all railings and decks and everything is just inappropriate, and it says so quite clearly in our standard. So if you look at your list of materials, none of those materials except for the roof, one of the doors, the Ipe decking, and the brick veneer would be considered appropriate for doing renovations to this house.
And we certainly can switch out all of those materials
That's
for
great.
wood.
Okay.
As far as the railing and the columns.
Great.
That would not be a problem.
And the only other thing is, it's hard for us to figure out which windows are you replacing and which ones you aren't. So searing, and we talked about this very briefly early on, having a set of existing elevations and a set of proposed elevations, so you're labeling exactly what it is you're replacing, and being able for us to see the difference between what's existing and what you're proposing is really important.
We were proposing to replace all of the windows.
Okay.
Several of them don't function. A lot of them have in fact been painted shut.
Okay.
So we were proposing to replace all of them.
Okay. That's all for me.
We were planning to replace them with, again, wood Pella windows with the same mullion patterns, though.
Well, except when we talk about wood windows here, what we're looking for are not wood-clad windows, but
But
primed
true
wood
wood
windows. Yeah, yeah.
Jake?
Yeah, I just had a question regarding A 1.0. And what are the dimensions of the proposed deck?
Of the
Are they
proposed,
indicated anywhere on there?
the proposed front porch is roughly 8 feet deep.
What is it now?
Roughly 8 feet.
8 feet deep and how wide?
It's the width of the main bulk of the home.
Because when I drove past it today, it's kind of deceiving when you see the property and then you look at this, and it seems like there's a lot more room in front. So it's just making sure the numbers were correct.
We did make it conform with the zoning, specifically with the idea that with the added steps, we can't go past a certain front setback.
But it's
So
kind of deceiving when you go by. It looks like the house is closer to the sidewalk.
I think so, yeah. I thought that too, yeah.
Other comments?
Oh, also, the other thing was the stacked parking. Is that existing?
It is existing to remain.
And the garage is included in there, or is that converted to a cabana?
The front part will be storage, but it will not be deep enough to house a car.
All right, currently, is it authorized as a garage use or cabana use?
Currently, it is a garage use.
Okay, so, I mean, that was probably factored into your parking as a spot. So, again, now you're getting rid of one spot, so you have one vehicle that's clearly in front of the property on the front lawn. And that's not allowed.
So we only technically need the 2 spaces, so we can remove that third one from the application.
Can that just be removed by the applicant?
Well, the question is, do you have to go to zoning?
No, we were doing this all with your review, but by right. There was no zoning application. I mean, it will go through zoning, but we do not need a variance of any sort.
Do you know, did zoning look at it?
We have not taken it to zoning. They told us to come to you first.
Do you know, did Bruce look at this? No. Because I suspect it's going to be a zoning issue. But we're talking about conceptual
Yeah,
anyway, so,
right.
So the zoning issue would be because we're removing a parking space from the garage?
perhaps. We're not zoning, we're
Yep.
HPC. But the question is, if it has to go to zoning, after zoning, it has to come back to us, so that,
Okay.
so I don't know whether it has to go to zoning. That's a question. Since we're dealing with it conceptually anyway, that's an issue you'll have to worry about.
Sure.
Janice?
I agree with the things that have been said, and we always urge people to preserve the wood windows. We also don't usually approve AZAC or composite materials on contributing structures, so just have to put that note in there.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think the materials are one thing, you know, and you can see about that with the contributing. But what's bothersome to me is that this is a Dutch colonial house built in the 1920s. It's a contributing house, and you're totally changing the design. So all the windows in the front are different, and put this front porch on, you know, a Dutch colonial never had a front porch. Increasing the number of dormers, you know, widening those dormers, so now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 windows. Changing the size of the windows on the second floor, changing the size and everything about the windows on the first floor. It's like totally redesigning the house.
The windows are actually intended to stay the same. The first floor, we are replacing a few windows with sliding glass doors to access the porch, but the second floor windows would remain.
Well, I didn't pay so much attention to the second floor windows today, but these second floor windows that are on this picture are not the same second floor windows that are on this drawing,
On the survey picture.
on the survey picture.
Okay. The current,
So maybe they've been changed
I was
already.
going to say, the current is on A 2.1, and we were planning to match what's currently there. The survey picture must have been taken a while ago.
Well, it
Well,
definitely could be.
You're showing a very narrow window over the front porch.
Just over the front porch, we did change that window. The other 4 remain.
So is it changed now? Is
It's
it a-
already changed.
Is it a
Everything
narrow
is
window?
already changed, right?
The existing home has the 5 windows that are the same, and we are changing just the middle one.
So they're
Okay.
changing.
All right,
Oh, yeah,
so you
you
are
are
changing,
changing.
that's what I thought. So what about the dormer?
The dormer is intended to be expanded to provide more light into that third floor space.
Okay, so the dormer is also different.
The bulk of the dormer remains. We actually added 2 smaller dormers to flank the existing dormer. The windows change, but the bulk of it stays the same.
When was that dormer added? I doubt it was original.
No, but that's not,
Well,
I have no way of knowing when it was added,
but
unfortunately.
it appears to be wider here than here.
That is part of our proposal, is to widen the existing dormer.
so-
There is an existing dormer that we are leaving and we're adding to it.
I interrupted you. Pip,
no, I think
continue.
I said everything, I think. I just think you can't take, I think it's inappropriate based on our standards and other practices to take a house that's one design and entirely change it, and change it into another design. That's a better way of putting it, maybe. So when I look at this against the house now, this is an entirely different looking house than the house that's there. And that's more of a concern to me than, whether you put a shake roof on it or not, or whatever, even though our standards would say that for a contributing house, you have to use appropriate materials like wood. Our standards also say don't replace windows if you don't have to.
We have to. I don't mean to interject, but you're welcome to come take a look. They are not salvageable. This house needs so much TLC, and that's what we're aiming to do. And by putting on the front porch, because we have to raise the house, we need to be able to get in the house. And so by doing so, we are keeping the integrity of that house. I mean, we're the homeowners, so obviously we have our 2 cents, but, we can change the wood. We're willing to, comply with whatever you need to, but the front porch is kind of a big deal.
Actually, they're widening the center one.
Your word for one of the prior submissions.
You look,
This house has been horrific. If you could come in and see it,
no.
I mean, the windows must have 50 years of paint and repaint. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
If they're not rotted, though, they can, they can in fact be
Be rehabilitated.
rehabbed.
I mean, I had a job.
Beyond repair. I'm sorry.
Well, we have several of us, on several occasions, have visited properties to look at windows to make a determination for ourselves. Many of us are experienced with what is repairable and what is not. But I share the same concern that I hear around the table. The house is changing completely. When you're in a contributing house in the historic district, the idea is to preserve it, not to change it. I mean, the house is disappearing. The front porch is a bit much. The dormer is not appropriate for either this house or the prior house. I mean, that, with those exposed, it looks like exposed rafters and stuff. It looks like we put a Key West dormer on top of a colonial house with somebody else's porch. I mean, this is a problem. I just don't think it fits our standards.
We did look at neighboring homes with the gambrel roof, and the dormers there are consistent with what we proposed. We can certainly remove whatever trim you find inappropriate, but this concept of a dormer of that size on a gambrel in this neighborhood, we did actually walk around and look at other homes, and it did seem appropriate.
Well, each one of our applications is individual.
Different.
Yeah, it is an entity unto itself. And, yeah.
I think we just have so much going on here. You're changing you're elevating the house, which we have an ordinance that explains what that is and what's doable. And so we would support that. But after that, you're changing the window configuration, you're changing the windows, changing the dormer, you're changing the front porch. I just think it's too much to say this is preservation. This is not preservation. This is something else.
Well, with all due respect, I disagree. I really do. I mean, I think we are taking a home and making it better and improving the neighborhood. The existing home, as we have stated, is really in disarray.
But you understand the difference between
I do
preservation
understand the
and...
difference, and you know, one of the reasons why we bought a home in Cape May was because there is the integrity and the beauty of the neighborhoods.
And that's what we're trying to maintain.
Right,
And this
as are
is-
we,
yeah,
as are we.
But you have to do it in a manner that fits the style of the house.
Right, and
And
I
the
think that's
Dutch
what we were trying
colonials
to
did,
do.
but Dutch colonials did not have porches. They also didn't have dormers, but, you know, that's,
We can't undo what's already been done. If we,
but I would say that probably if all those windows are just painted shut, it'd be a very simple matter to, you know, you take the sash out, put chain on it, so that you don't ever have to replace it. You sand it down so that you don't have all that buildup of paint. If there's caulking that's bad, you replace the caulking, you repaint it, you put it in, and they work fine. I mean, I had a house, the first house I had down here was built in 1872. Had the original windows in it. Yeah, I went around and I put chain on every one of those windows. House I had in Baltimore before I moved up here was built in 1904. It was a Dutch colonial, by the way, with no dormers. But it did have a front porch, which was built originally with it. You know, but it's not normally part of the Dutch colonial.
I'm wondering if you could like kind of step back. I mean, I understand what you're saying about improving the neighborhood and improving the house and all of that. And those are certainly good things. And I appreciate like your desire to do that, I really do. But I'm wondering if you could kind of stand back and say, this is the design of this house. And how could it is what it is. It's a Dutch colonial house, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. And then think about how you could retain that and still get what you want in the inside, which I'm sure is part of this, right?
Sure, but I think the exterior is important equally to the inside.
Yes, yes. So then maybe, for example, you wouldn't replace all the windows across the first floor with sliding glass doors. Maybe you would leave those windows the way they are. Maybe not the original windows, maybe you would have to replace them or whatever's necessary, but I'm more thinking about the style, talking about the style and what relates to this particular style or this particular architectural style, and trying not to change the style, even though even at the same time as you improve the house, if that makes any sense.
You know, before you proceeded with it, did you familiarize yourself with the Secretary of Interior's standards?
We did, and we had many conversations with our fantastic architect here. So, you know, I think we can agree to disagree, and we're trying to come to the meeting of the minds with materials and whatnot. The front porch is obviously something that we as homeowners would like to have, but we do want to maintain the integrity of the design of the home, and I think that's what we've tried to do. I really do. So I won't say any more, or my husband's going to bite my head off when we leave here, but
We saw him. We saw
Well,
him go beyond her.
You know-
Compliment. It is a beautiful design, but it's just no longer a Dutch colonial, according to the standards.
You know-
I would encourage you to look at Cape May design standards, and I would encourage you to look at the Secretary of Interior standards. The most recent copy is 2017, It's readily available. It's available online. That will give you, I think, a little bit more insight into how we're trying to maintain a style and materials. And both the materials and the style here doesn't work. And it's not consistent with our standards or Secretary of Interior standards. And that we can't disagree with. You may disagree with it, but our comments are consistent with the standards. So I think this plan needs a little bit of work. Again, what we could do is table this, give you time to look at these different resources and different ideas, with the idea of coming back with a plan that is a bit more sensitive to.
Well, and we need to come back with their elevation certificate anyway.
Well, I meant to give you some time to do some research and do some design changes. When you table it, though, if we table it, and you have to come back, you have to agree to waive the time frame.
What do you mean waive the time frame?
The city has an obligation to respond to an applicant within a certain period of time. And this, you're going away and coming back would exceed that. So you'd have to waive that.
Okay.
All right? So the applicant agrees to waive the time frame and move this to table. And then
Warren,
come back.
when I was, I've been here forever. When I was a little girl, there were two houses that were very similar. They're still both there, one at Jefferson, one at Franklin. I think Dr. Records lived in the one at Franklin. But anyhow, these houses, if I remember, had something very similar, let me see, I just saw, to an entrance that was curved, and I'm not an expert on Dutch colonials, but that it looked like this, okay, with the columns, no porch, the best I remember. And they were not that wide, and there were benches, the old-fashioned benches that they used to, but it was just an entryway. But to the best of my knowledge, it came out significantly, and then they had those. And I don't know what has happened. I mean, there are now wrought iron railings on there. They were not there when I was a child. It was very, very different. So that might be something you might want to incorporate in this, you know, when you redesign or do something different.
And if you want one of us to come over and look at the windows, we can give you an assessment as to whether these windows can be repaired, replaced, repaired. And I would guarantee you, if they're got as much paint on them as you say they do, all you have to do is break that seal of the paint, it'll come out. You can clean those windows up.
You could pay someone to do it, too.
I can give you advice on that.
Next order of business is Waters, 1218 New York Avenue, Block 1131, lots 11 and 12. This is a contributing property, deck, doors, and windows.
Evening, Chairman and Commission members. My name is Keith Davis. I'm an attorney from Nemad Davis and Goldstein on behalf of Ms. Waters. I'm joined by Billy Campbell, who is our project architect. And I was going to have Billy walk through each of the plan sheets and explain to you the nature of the addition that we're proposing.
So the existing house is built in 1910s. It's a existing craftsman style at 1218 New York Avenue, of course. What we're proposing is that we're adding a deck to the rear of the house, as well as adding a outdoor shower to the right side of the
I'm
house.
sorry, sir, can you speak up a little bit, move your mic a
Yeah.
little closer?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me better? Yeah. So we're adding a deck to the rear of the house, and we're adding an outdoor shower. Removing the existing terrace, and we are also removing an existing window to replace it with a double window on the second floor rear bedroom, which I'll walk you through right now. You want to turn to page HP 010. That is our proposed site plan. What you see in blue is existing and unchanged. The proposed deck is highlighted in an orange tone on the rear of the house, as well as the outdoor shower. You can see the existing terrace or patio, you could say, is dashed in. That would be removed, as well as the side stair to make room for the outdoor shower. You turn to PC 200. It's the next page. They're the proposed architectural plans. You have the basement level there, where it shows the proposed outdoor shower on the upper left corner of the building. And then we'll have a concrete stair that leads to the existing basement door. Okay? And then underneath that plan is your proposed first floor plan. The proposed deck is highlighted in orange. You can see there is a new window that will open up onto the deck. That is that window A from the kitchen, and a new door, 1-1. If you turn to HPC 201, second floor plan, you'll see a double window over the bed there, window type C. That is proposed. The existing window that would be centered behind the bed would be removed. And the third floor is, exterior-wise, is no changes there. If you go to HPC 600, you'll see the west elevation there. Existing elevations are shown above the proposed elevations. The proposed elevations are rendered. The proposed elevation there, you see on the second floor, there will be the new windows that replace the one existing window that we removed. And then the deck is shown on the lower left corner of the house. No changes to the front facade at all, which you'll see on the next sheet, 601. Drawing number 1, that is the front facade. No changes at all. To the north elevation, which is the rear, you'll see what we're doing is there's an existing outdoor shower. We're removing that so we can put it on the other side. But the proposed elevation, you'll see the proposed deck on the back side. The door would be mahogany. The windows would be Gelwin paint grade wood. Lattice panels on the underside of the deck, paint grade wood. Railings and all, same thing. We want to match the characteristics of the existing. And then we'll have brick piers as well underneath the deck. Turn to the next sheet, 602. Existing elevation is above the proposed again, and this is the side elevation showing where the proposed outdoor shower will be installed to replace the side stairs there. So, and you get to see the side of the deck as well. Paint grade lattice panels again, and then brick pier to support the deck. Okay.
How many windows are you adding or replacing?
We're adding 3 windows.
And replacing?
2.
Two existing, we're adding.
2 existing, adding 3. Yep.
Rather than go around the room on this, it's pretty straightforward. I would ask commission members if they have any questions or comments on this application.
So I just have one question. First of all, commenting that this is an extremely well-done submission. It's easy to understand, well-documented. So will the railings on the back match, on the new deck, will they match the railings in size and configuration of what's
the front
existing?
porch,
Yeah, okay, just want to be sure. Okay.
Other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve this submission.
Second.
Why is this conceptual?
We have to go to the zoning board for a lot coverage variance.
Okay, thank you.
Motion by Mr. Becker, seconded by Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stradak?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we have
Thank
the
you
record.
for
Good to
waiting.
see you again, Dave.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Let's see. Are we?
Next order of business, 1005 Beach Avenue LLC. This is block 1095, lot 15. This is a key contributing property. We're going to talk about windows, a dormer, porch, roof, stairs, and HVAC.
Oh, yes, the May West House.
We're not going to call it that anymore, though.
No, I like the way you phrase that in the historical.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to take it, well, first of all, they call it a cottage. And I guess cottage in the sense that it's just a summer house, but it's,
Have you ever
it's,
been?
I'm sorry, could you
some cottage.
introduce yourselves, please?
Yes,
They're all cottages up there.
yeah. I'm Jonathan Kohler, you can call me John. My wife Jeannie Kohler, my son Kyle. And yes, you can fix old windows, because that's what we've been doing the last 3 weeks on the first floor. We're 17 in, we got 13 more to go. And this is Jim. our architect.
Jim McAfee, I'm the project architect. So,
Take it away.
here we go. I'll try to walk you through, if you start with sheet H1. So later, John's going to, as he mentioned, talk a little bit more about the windows, but I'll just try and point out the major, points of work. So the biggest issue on the front elevation is the railings. So there were some photos, let's see, sheet, so page 4, there's some photos of the front railing. So that main first floor railing specifically is structurally, it's in a bit of disrepair. And there's two other issues. One is the height of the railing. It's I wouldn't say significantly, but it's lower than a 36-inch high railing, so we're proposing to add a cap or another top wood rail to it. The other piece, and you'll see this with the other railings, is there's a lot of space, between those. They're not close to being code compliant, so we're trying to move closer to that with that main first floor railing. The second floor railings in the hipped, I'll just call them the hipped roof bays, we're proposing to add just a vertical element in there. One, to help structurally, and two, to minimize that large open space between those. Again, keeping as much of the existing railing as possible, repairing, and then adding that vertical element. We're also proposing that dormer, that shed dormer on the third floor. They are all replacement vinyl windows. We're going to replace those with wood windows We are proposing to add 3 new wood windows in the left bay on the first floor. On the left side is really, and I'll get around to that, but that's the main entrance in the foyer. And right now, there's no light. It's really more of a hallway than anything else. So we're proposing new windows there. On the right-hand side, there's a single-story element that has vinyl windows, again, replacement windows in the front. We're going to replace those windows with wood. And then if you turn to H2,
Your window is gelled wind, but
Yep. Prime's wood.
is that prime?
yes.
Not clad?
No. Not clad. No. Okay, so on H2, on the right side, there's a stair there that we're proposing to reconstruct. That's of wood. That's in pretty bad shape. It'll be in kind, same, the treads and risers are fine. So we'll put that back and then replace those windows on the side elevation to then match the 2 that are on the front side that I just talked about. Other than that, that's really it on that side, other than the rear porch, which I'll get to in a sec on, if you turn to page H3. This is where a significant amount of the work is being proposed. So there's an existing stair that was built sometime, I think, after, according to the historic report, after 2006. So we're proposing to remove that stair. If you look at the photographs on page, so it shows up on page 7 a little bit, and then again on page 8, it's really the best photo. So you can see that stair, that connects to a second floor bedroom. It's kind of odd. And then an intermediate door, which we're proposing to remove, that's between the first and second floor. There's a secondary stair, and that stair goes to a door that goes to then a landing on the interior stair. So all of that's, we're proposing to remove all of that. There's also some air conditioning units, which you can see on page 8 in the rear elevation photo, the stair. We are going to add another air conditioning unit, but then we're proposing to screen that and rebuild the platform that it's on. So also on the rear, if you look on page 9, there's a shower that was added at some point. That was not, I don't think that was permitted. So we're removing that as well. So in that area, general area, we're proposing a rear covered porch or deck. It's roughly 7 feet by 12 feet. So one of the things I didn't mention is currently the existing main building has 3 units. There is also a garage, and there's a unit in that garage. We need to get a variance because we are reducing the number of units. If it was in one building, we wouldn't need a variance. But because there's 2 separate buildings, and that's not specifically defined in the ordinance, we need to get a variance to go from 4 total units to 2.
And that's why it's conceptual.
Yes. Yes. So we're in the process of working with that. But to that point, this is now a single-family home. There's no connection at all from the main living areas to the backyard. So that's what this is this is really going to be an attempt to do that. That would lead to the kind of a dining area, eating area, and kitchen. And that will be constructed of wood. Those railings will be consistent with what we're trying to do with the rest of the house. And I think, oh, yes,
Very important.
big one. So the main, so currently there's a stair that connects the first floor to the second floor, to the main stair. There is a secondary stair because the units, it was chopped up and there were so many units. There's another stair. There was also a spiral stair, but we're getting rid of that. But there's another stair that went from the second to the third floor. So what we're proposing to do is to consolidate all of that and have one main stair that goes from first floor to second floor to third floor. In order to do that, we added that shed dormer on the rear. Those windows below that, that's where that stair and landing are, if that helps kind of explain that a little bit.
And those are all going to be wood, because right now, the bottom one of the one going up the stairs is vinyl. The one above that is wood, and then the ones, of course, above that would also be wood. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And then moving on to the left side, sheet H4. Really, everything else, you know, I've discussed, except we are going to repair and kind of modify the railing to that side entrance, which, let's see, if there is one, I think it's the latest picture.
Of the entrance.
Page 6, you can kind of see what is there. Again, just an attempt to make those a little bit more stable and to reduce the opening size in the railing. We are also proposing a new wood entry door. I included that in the packet as well. So really, John can talk a little bit more about the windows. So John will explain. but,
Yeah.
So John's going to talk about those. We also, which it's not in here, and as part of our application to the zoning board, we'll have a site plan. So there'll be a landing, a brick landing at the bottom of the stairs, a few walkways. We're also proposing a fence. And John has you guys have an example of that that we could show you as well.
Yeah, so windows, that's what we've been working on. Fixing the ones, there's 17 double hungs that we've been working on. You can just about fix anything. I'm pretty good at it now, but I grew up in a house that was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. I'm pretty good at glazing now, and fixing chains and ropes. It's weird, there's a mix of both, even though they are the original windows. So we haven't got them both to slide on a couple of them, but yeah, we're about ready to go to the second floor. So we've also taken off aluminum storm windows, so you can kind of watch our progress, which is the dining room. If you look at the house from the front, it's the right-hand side. That feature right there, we've taken those off, and we're in the process of fixing those up. So, yeah, we're doing everything we can to keep what is original. If there is a window that's coming out, which there is on the back, it's going to become a door. I will tell you that new glass is not even close to glass that's from the 20s. It's about half the thickness, and I broke both pieces that I picked up at the hardware store. So therefore, we're cannibalizing one of the windows that we're not going to use going forward. So yeah, we're going to try to, wherever we can, we're going to try to do that. And then also along the front, where all those French doors, I can't get any of them open yet. I got to take them all apart. The house has settled a little bit. Was hit by that 62 storm pretty severely, but that's all original there. So that floor right there is a little wavy. we got to do some work there. But yeah, it's definitely a labor of love right now. I've had my family helping me every day, and it's actually been kind of a joy. It's kind of therapeutic, so I appreciate you guys. We were worried we weren't going to get to this today, so really appreciate everybody for hustling through. So, yeah.
John, I want to just add that John and his sister Lisa have just inherited 1005 Beach Avenue. His parents in the last year have both passed. They've owned it for the last 20 years, and, you know, some corners were cut, and we're trying to right some of the wrongs
the
that
corners.
happened in the last, I guess, probably 3 decades or so.
Yeah.
So that's how we, our house in Pennsylvania was from 1805. Like, we appreciate.
I was
old
born in a
houses.
house that was built in 1749,
And
so.
we just actually, Jim did the plans for us for a little cottage on Lighthouse Avenue out at the point that I'm sure somebody else would have demoed and put up a McMansion, and we have this adorable little
So if you
cottage.
see the Ham Cottage,
The Ham
that's
Cottage,
us.
We're right on it, Lighthouse Avenue. So anyway, I just wanted to add,
Whereabouts on Lighthouse?
so we're the third one down on the right. It's the prettiest one on Lighthouse.
Oh, that one.
It's a
Yeah.
white clapboard house.
You're prejudiced.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
But it is. Anyway, I just wanted to say, we appreciate old homes where, you know, whatever we can discover and find and save, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, should I speak about these things now, or maybe they want questions first?
Do you think, we have some examples of the fence?
Yeah, we want to just put a fence across the back of the property, because we do get people cutting through they don't want to walk around the block to get to the beach. So the next door neighbor has this style fence. I can pass it around. And I thought, since that's what they had, maybe that's what would work best, because it would just continue.
There's a privet hedge back there right now, and you can clearly see where
People
everybody
cut
cuts through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty typical fence for Cape May,
Yeah,
Murphy fence or something.
yep, yeah, that's what we use, yep.
Yeah.
So that's, we have that going into the zoning for approval for just across the back. And then the other thing
And
that.
that
Yes.
has to be approved by the HPC as well.
Also,
Yep.
we didn't add it here, but we've got to come back to you, so.
Yeah, and
Or you can just fill out an application, we can do that in the review committee.
Sure, okay.
well, they're coming back.
They're
It's
coming back.
Yeah, we'll be
conceptual.
back, this
We'll
is
be back.
conceptual.
So just, we need that kind of detail.
When we come back for.
And the railing, design,
Sure.
we
Okay.
need.
Okay, and then the other thing that we would love opinions on, so when the trolley goes by, they call it the May West House. We realize that it's really the Kate McCreary House, that's who built this house.
Well, it's
So-
actually the Cape McCreary Cottage,
Or
but
cottage.
I don't really agree with cottage,
So,
but.
how do we transition, calling it that? We'd like to put some kind of plaque or sign that says, circa 1925.
I think,
Call MAC, 884-5404.
yeah, middle and,
Ask for Ben Ridings.
Okay, you're serious?
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute.
yes.
They're the ones who run the trolley.
Okay. Okay. Calling it the May West House.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be very receptive, actually.
Okay. So that's, well, then that answers
There you go.
that.
There you go.
Yeah, never get that.
Look at that.
Easy.
Of course, a lot of people will continue to refer.
They will, they will.
You have to be out of the house in Cape May for at least 50 to 60 years before they go say, Bud Swain's old house,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right.
Where do you live? Next to Bud Swain's old house?
right.
He hasn't lived there in years, and God bless him, he's still his old house.
So our cottage at the point is the Ham Cottage, and we kept the name because everyone locally knows it as the Ham Cottage. And we researched it, we went to the courthouse and found out that it was Anna Scott Ham, it was her house. And we thought, were they selling pigs there? What was the ham? What was the ham reference? But it actually was the last name,
Yeah.
so.
And not that that was
It's
anybody
staying-
important, but
yeah,
it was the Ham
it's
Cottage.
staying the Ham Cottage. So anyway, All right, well, there we go. We'll call and get them to
Yeah.
not call it the May West.
Yeah, they'll say formerly known as the.
There we go.
Right.
It is interesting.
Yes.
Well, it's quite obvious why it is, so.
Yes. Yes.
At any rate, any questions or concerns about this application?
I just have just a couple questions. So, understand completely the need to revise these railings. The question is, will the new railings that you're showing along the front there, will they meet code in terms of the 4-inch sphere passing through,
New
or are you going to
railings,
get?
as I have them shown, do not meet code.
So that's why I'm asking, is because we may have to see another revised version of these if it comes back that the railings as they're designed
No, we-
don't meet code.
That was actually a question I.
The motion will have to include the railing design. We
Yeah.
need very specific.
So that was actually a question that I had, because there's this, not conflict, but
There,
if we touch the railings.
yeah, there's a tension, right?
So, so I would prefer that they obviously meet code. So that's fine.
And I would too, because just to add a little bit of visual to this, or, a couple of years ago, we did actually have a relative fall off that front railing and break a femur. So they're 34 inches high. There's just not a lot of support to them. So, yeah, so, yeah, it was on the 4th of July, putting the flag out, and my aunt and my cousin went right over the side.
So the reason I'm asking is because HPC will need to approve the railing design, and I suspect you're going to need to revise what you're showing in order to meet code.
Because especially, yes, that front.
Right.
lower railing.
I only have two other questions. That is the front dormer, and I wonder if this is just a drafting error, but the front dormer has 6/6 windows, and you're showing 4/4, and I'm just wondering if that's just a drafting error?
Which,
Yeah,
The
these
front shed
guys-
dormer,
these
the
guys
big
up
one.
here, they are 6/6s right
okay, yeah,
now.
that is a drafting.
Okay. Similarly, it's really interesting, is in the historic, it's my last question.
So John, they're 6/6, but they're vinyl replacement
Yeah, I know,
windows.
yeah. but-
So can they go to 4/4?
Well, but given the proportions of the rest of the fenestration and the grills, you can see that all of a sudden you've got horizontal configuration as opposed to either square or vertical configuration.
Got it.
So the 6/6 would be appropriate
Okay.
for the style of the house, right?
Okay.
One of the things that's really fascinating is in the historical report on this property, it talks about that and verify if this is correct, that the windows on the right side porch are all still historical wood windows. Is that
They are. So, yeah, so there's the two on the front facing.
Yep.
Were replaced at some point, and those are vinyl. So
Okay,
the
'cause
problem.
those almost look like they open.
They
this-
don't. They're all, I wish we would love if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the two facing forward are vinyl, they're fixed.
Yep.
The issue is you can't get a new all-wood window, the mullion size, it's not the same. So
To match the ones on the side.
they're beefy. They're like the
Well, and
mullion.
also, yeah, so those aren't operable, where the ones on the
not.
side are double hung.
Yeah.
Right, so those are just divided light.
The side ones on that first floor porch are also just single windows that aren't double hung.
They're all
They don't
fixed.
open.
They're all
That whole
fixed.
porch is fixed?
Yeah, they're all
Okay.
just
We
fixed.
would love it if we would be allowed to put anything that opens on that porch.
So it seems to me that, so the ones in the front are vinyl.
Yeah.
The ones on the side are not. right?
Correct.
Well, clearly, if you wanted to replace the ones in the front with wood, we would support that for sure.
We would do that.
Could we do double hung?
Or do something that we can open.
casement,
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
that
or,
opens.
yeah, can you do a casement? Is that or is that a no?
That would not,
This house would have had a double hung window.
yeah, it would
Okay.
have had all double hung.
Got it.
So those are my comments, folks.
Okay.
So, and thanks for coming in and having that long chat with us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was
Appreciated that a
excellent,
lot.
so,
Yes.
yeah.
These guys came and saw us at one of the review meetings in the morning, and
Yeah,
it's
in
great.
January, so.
There's also there's a couple people in the area, we can't make recommendations, but There's a couple people in the area that do windows,
Custom,
custom windows.
okay.
They could match them up.
Okay, that would be great, because I don't want to have to pull all those out to get them all to match. So, although our builder did tell us how much money we're saving by fixing all of our windows, so I could give those guys some hints. Excellent. He is, yes. Yeah, you did. You touched them all.
He's expensive, though.
Yeah, he is.
So if those two on the front of that side porch.
Yeah.
Would we, if they're the ones that were vinyl that are fixed, could we do double hung there that are wood? Since, I mean, they're vinyl right now, would that be something that would be okay?
Maybe we go back to wood.
Yeah, they'll certainly go back to wood, but we just want to be able to open
Yeah,
something.
get a breeze in there. 'cause
Yeah.
there's
Double
no-
hung
Yeah.
window
Okay.
would be appropriate.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we could try to get the grids to match the existing ones on the side.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, you're not going to be able to quite match the grids on the side because the sill is much lower on those front windows.
Yeah, they are.
So that's a 10 light window as opposed to
Right.
4/4s on the
We'll
side
get them as close as we
elevation.
can.
And the report says that door, the historic report says that door was original, and unfortunately, it's not anymore. But we want to replace that door, the front door that's really on the side of the building, with mahogany wood doors. That I think
That would match the one that will also then be on the left side, which is the main, that's the main entrance. You know, there's no front, really not a front door on the house, but
And on the doors, you have some information.
we do. Yeah,
But we need a specific cut sheet for the.
yep, it's in here.
For the door.
For the door, yeah.
Okay.
The gelled one door.
Other questions for this group? Do I have a motion?
Motion to grant conceptual approval to the application. And wait for they come back after.
Seconded?
Thank you.
I just thought of one more question I had. I'm not sure we want to do this, but the brick, is it a no-no to ever paint brick? The brick is, I think it's been repointed, the bottom, I guess, foundation.
It's on the
portion.
side and the back of the house, but
It's just been pointed sloppily over the years, and I don't know. I mean, is that something that we could ever paint if we decided to, or is that something that you would be frowned upon?
Fair question.
Personally, I frown upon painted brick.
Okay.
Brick, you know, nice red brick, that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do my darndest.
mean-
I haven't, it's not been hospitable to be outside this past week, so.
Right, that should turn around.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do with
Okay, yeah,
it.
I mean, it's just, I mean, it needs some TLC, I guess.
It does. Okay.
So.
Great.
You have conceptual approval and you have some comments about specific railing designs and
Sure. Yep.
Did we
doors
ever
and
get a
windows.
second on that?
I don't know.
Yes, I seconded.
We have to vote.
Ready?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Coxwell, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cogswell?
Yes.
Ms. Bisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
I see your home address is Littleton, Colorado.
That's right.
Right.
We split coasts,
Wow.
so. Yeah, he wants to go back, but we're here till
We
July.
told him we need to get all of our yeses, and then we can go back to
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah, he works.
Yep, you're right. Eating it while you're gone, Kyle.
I hope so.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Open to the public. There's no one present. And so we'll close it to the public. The next, we have a couple of issues. Zoning Board of Review Committee, the ordinance proposal. You I had distributed this to everyone. You've all had a chance to review it. I think what I would like to do, I know Lorraine wanted to make one little narrative comment change, but what I see happening here is that we finally agree on this as a group. And the idea then would be for the HPC to present this to City Council. So the idea is to come to understanding and acceptance, agreement on the narrative. After that, then an agreement by the HPC to present this to City Council. This has been a problem. I suspect some people might be able to get offended or something, are trying to do this. But I've been dealing with these reversals for 15 years or more, and I think it's time to ask City Council to take action. And this should make it easy for City Council, because this is the narrative that's developed and written. So with that, Lorraine, you had one change you wanted to make. Did you want to discuss that?
Sure. If you take a look at the second paragraph, I like to have things a little bit more in the affirmative, where that paragraph starts with the word no. I think I would like to add or change it to an appeal shall be considered after a final resolution of the HPC and not during a conceptual review. The appeal shall not consider, and then continuing, any testimony or documentation presented and continuing that way, if that would be considered here. I just think it's more in the affirmative and not negative.
I understand your point. I don't see this as being negative, but the point has to be made. So does anyone feel strongly one way or the other about changing this wording?
I do, I agree with Lorraine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anytime you can do something in the positive,
It's better.
it comes across better.
And you provide that wording to
Sure, I can give her my
Judy.
copy.
and then distribute to all of us.
I think, well, Judy, you can make the revisions and then distribute.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean you distribute, I meant, yeah.
So have people on the zoning board approved this?
No,
Oh, have they seen it?
no.
Oh. I thought it was a group. When you said a group of us, I thought maybe it included them.
No, that's why I believe we need an ordinance change. It has to be clear. And with the change that Lorraine has made, I would make a motion that we adopt this for presentation to the City Council
As changed.
as changed.
I'll make that motion.
I made it.
Oh, you made it. I'll second. It's getting late, folks.
Judy?
We're getting punchy.
Discussing another possible amendment. Sorry. Paragraph 3 refers in the third line to a preceding sentence, and I guess it refers to paragraph 2, which is actually 2 sentences, 43. If you go back in the original ordinance, this should actually be. Which preceding sentence? The last preceding
arbitrary capricious sentence.
Well, why not just say, set forth above? Take out
In the preceding sentence.
in the preceding sentence. Criteria set forth above. Okay? So, we have a motion. I made the motion. Corbin seconded.
Motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Mr. Coxwell. Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Coxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson? Mr. Becker?
Yes.
So the motion will include with the amendments, correct? As discussed? The motion was to approve with the amendments as discussed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. The second item is the seawall project. I had written to all of you and made a shorter version. By now, I presume City Council is moving ahead anyway, but in fact, we do owe them an advisory report on the seawall. So I would, again, make a motion that we embrace this as the HPC response.
I have one thing I'd like to change. Since the ice ball raised enough money to increase the number of arches, that they've sentenced in paragraph 3, new arches concerning on one end of the promenade. It should just take out on one end of, or on the promenade.
Yeah.
That's,
They don't, I wasn't aware that they raised enough money to put arches on the entire new promenade.
So it looks as if there's enough money right now to extend them from Howard to Madison on the east and from Primal to Grant on the west.
Yeah, but that's, so this sentence would still stand.
Yep.
There's more of them, but this promenade is going to extend all the way down. So,
I think it's fine the way it is.
okay.
Yeah, I think so, too.
other comments? So, I have a motion to,
Did you motion? Did you make the motion?
yeah,
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Copeland, seconded by Mr. Becker. Mr. Copeland?
yes,
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Coxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Pisagno?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Stridick?
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Thank you.
HPC Awards Project, who's,
That's Tom and me, and we have not met. He hasn't been, there's no progress on that.
well, no, he's been out of commission, so.
Yeah,
um,
so have I. I'm
So we'll put that off
really
till
busy.
next meeting.
Or the one after that.
And Pip, did you want to make a brief comment?
I do. So we've been, the standards subcommittee has been working with the architect, whose name is Stephen Smolin. And Stephen would like to come and present stuff to the whole HPC, which I think would be good. And the suggestions are whether to tack this on to an HPC meeting or have him make a meeting, have him come at another time and do it at a separate time to be able to review these standards. So I sort of wanted to see what everybody thought, because we have to, like sunshine, another meeting, and it has to be open to the public and all of that, which I think is great. But we need to kind of decide that so we can, if it's going to be another meeting, that we can get that set up and scheduled. So this is,
Well, considering the
Yeah.
amount of business that we're getting,
Yeah, another meeting.
I wouldn't want to sit here and have a discussion of
Yeah.
the standards at this hour of the night.
Right, me either.
And I think a special meeting for that only.
All right.
It's
So
worth
does
it.
anyone have a particular day they like better than another day? Should I just try for another Monday, or
Well,
we have to make sure there's
is he,
space?
is he available during the day? I thought he was only available
He'll
in the
make
evening.
himself available for whatever we need him to be available. He's anxious to meet everybody and to show everybody what he's doing.
Yeah, I've been in, he's listening tonight, I think.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Steve.
You have actually done these things before at 5 PM, before the meeting. You've had these kind of presentations at 5 PM before your regular meeting.
It's a long, these meetings, I mean, with this
I would
number of
prefer it to be
applications,
another
yeah.
meeting.
It needs to be
Yeah,
a
Because
long
if people
meeting.
want to talk about things, or,
Right.
I mean, this isn't just like stand up and, I mean, I think we might want to
This is
discuss parts of
important.
it.
Right.
And it's important, right.
The regular subcommittee meetings have been 2.5, 3 hours, so
Yeah,
It gives you
it's too
an
important
idea.
to collapse it with all the other things.
So should we try to make it another Monday or another day entirely?
I would rather have it for the next couple months anyway on Tuesday, because I'm going to be working Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so
All right.
nobody
Well-
wants to do this on a Friday.
Let's,
We have to make sure the room is available.
yeah, we have a lot to do here.
No, all we have
Let's-
to do is find out about rooms.
Lorraine, what nights?
No, and
does
who's
council
available,
meet? Tuesday nights.
I mean, who's available? Oh, okay, yes, yes.
right?
But first, we need a room.
Well, first we need a date. We're all available, or most of us are available.
All right.
And then we need a room.
Okay, so I can send out a doodle, and everybody can just answer on the doodle, and then we'll see what would be good. And I will pick Tuesday nights. Does Tuesday seem to be okay for everybody?
I can't,
Judy?
You meet once a month on Tuesdays?
You can't
No,
do
just-
third.
third Tuesday.
Oh, no, the first and the third.
of my
I think it might be a good
condo
idea
meeting.
for me to get the meeting room
And Lorraine has
schedule first
council meetings.
and find out which evenings per month are
So you can never
available.
do any, I heard Lorraine talking about you.
Third Tuesday, I can't.
Also.
Any Tuesday.
So,
What about a Monday night? Because that's our typical meeting nights.
yeah, Monday night would be great.
I don't think there's another meeting on Monday nights. I don't think there are. I don't think so either.
So we want to find a Monday night that everyone's available.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. If we'll have more than a quorum there, this has to be a public meeting, right?
So we
It
have
has to be
Well, that's
public
why we
anyway.
have to get it,
Yeah.
so that Judy will be able to do what you have to do to put
Okay.
it in. Yeah, to put it in the paper and advertise it and everything.
I guess the next question, how early could we have it? I mean, I could be here anytime after 4. But I don't want you to go by me, I've been trying not to answer a lot of your responses because I'm a non-voting member here. I wanted to have the voting members.
April, I can make it after 4 o'clock.
Oh, come on.
Me too.
And after April, we'll be going to 10 to 5.
Okay, so how about you, Beek? What time?
I can be there here by 4.
Oh, can you? Okay. But you can't,
If I'm here.
if you're here. Okay, all right.
The
We'll
hour,
get you to be
the
here.
hour is not my question.
I got you, I got you. Okay.
Right? So, good. Anxious to move that forward. And
I think you all will like meeting him very, very much. He's been, so far, he's been really conscientious. And I think, he's really, I don't know what other people would say on the subcommittee, but it's been very interesting to me how even the simplest thing is maybe not understood by everybody in exactly the same way.
So I find him intelligent, he really cares, and a very high level of attention to detail.
He's right on schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's excellent. I think we're getting a lot for our money.
good. Anything else for this august group?
Move, we adjourn.
Second.